per man. 1 diathlete per man.
These are recommendations. Just when you thought we said all we could say, our squad on the side said they got more on the way. These are recommendations. Damn, I'm thrown and I don't know what to do. Guess we gonna list part 2 of recommendations. If we're gonna list them, then we gotta list them all. Damn near cried when Bacon recommended School Days. I'm so thrown, I don't know what to do but to give them part 2 of recommendations.
Hey everyone, and welcome to yet another Aranime podcast episode. And we've got something special for you today. So over the past years we've got many requests and questions on what is our favorite anime, what would we want other people to watch, or what are the most essential anime out there to get yourself familiar with the medium. And in this episode we are trying to address it all. So just grab a drink of your choice. It's going to be a long one. And today we've got one half of our podcast together. It's called Calf's Click. It's a bit snobby one, I guess, compared to the other one.
As are most
it's still fine, yeah. So the stop number 1, Sinrus.
Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm feeling it. We don't have 17, so I'm gonna have to double down on the snob factor in order to.
Then we got not so snob Fate Steel Taylor.
So just a spoiler, Citrus is probably not gonna be on this list, but you know, you gotta stay tuned to make sure.
Why even?
And to balance out our snobbiness, there is a Shocking.
Hello, I'm gonna try and not be snob, but wish me luck.
Can you even not be snob? I thought your name was Snob King 807.
Ooh, got him.
Got him.
Got him. Anyway, we tried to separate our recommendations into 3 parts. Must-watch classics, hidden gems or underwatched shows, and then personal favorites. Overall, everyone picked 5 anime, and then we also conducted a survey on our Discord and Twitter, and the most picked shows out there we are going to discuss as well, and they are called community picks. So overall, it's going to be about 30 shows or so. Like it's a lot of shows.
I think it's 25.
It's 25. Math is hard.
Other...
Math is not my really strongest subject anyway. So yeah, let's move on from here. Yeah, and just start with Sinrus. What is your must-watch classic?
My
anime?
must-watch classic is Fooly Cooly. This is one of the old Gainax like seminal works. It is one of my personal favorites, but it got booted up here from the personal favorite section because I think it's also just absolutely essential for anybody who wants a deeper understanding of the medium. It was created as a test of Gainax's new animation software. So despite being almost 20 years old now, it still looks better than like anything that's being produced in the modern era. I think it's one of the greatest coming-of-age stories of all time. In addition to just being an absolute masterclass in direction and fitting important details into tiny ways that characters interact and relate with each other, and letting audiences relate to a story on one level and then build their understanding of the plot on the other. There's basically nothing that I think it does wrong.
Yeah, you've got it all right.
Yeah, and I know it's a popular one among this community, among this group of people too.
Right.
I also want to mention that Furikure is very short. It's like a very short dose of awesomeness. It's like only 6 episodes long.
6 OVAs, right.
Yeah. It has amazing rewatch potential. And like there are so many tiny details in the show that you can watch it like every time with a different mindset. Like the first time it's coming of age show. Second is like focus on the romance. Third on the world building, because there are like also lots of details which kind of develop kind of not post-apocalyptic, but like very intricate and interesting world as well. And it's just such a rich show for such a short duration. It's amazing. It's just a must-watch, really.
Yeah, I like to half-jokingly say that Furikuri is actually a 12-episode anime because you have to watch it twice. The first time, the first time for just the feeling of the show, to get like swept up in how ridiculous and over the top everything is, and then the second time to look at it more closely. Now that you know what to expect from what's happening on screen, you can kind of see past the sound and the fury to pick up on all of the subtleties that are hiding underneath it. There are also, I should mention, there are also the Furikuri sequels as of this past year.
Are we recommending those, or are we just saying
well,
they exist?
I'm just going to mention that they exist. Say your mileage on them may vary. I think pretty much everyone will agree they're not as good as the original, but there are plenty of people who think they are still good.
Right. It's kind of a Gainax thing too, right? That like a lot of their anime almost demand rewatches. Like there's so much subtlety and there's so much detail in the direction. And especially what's not said, because Furikuri says a lot, right? Like it's a very loud, in-your-face show with a lot of things, and like it does a lot of the meta moments that Gainax was famous for early on with Daikon, and then became even more famous for with Gurren Lagann and all their self-referential things in Trigger as well. But like Furikuri really took that to the top. Like the bunny suit that appears is like a callback to Daikon 3, Daikon 4, and like. The lemon eating the lemon drink scene at the beginning gets referenced later in Kill la Kill. So like if you've watched
does it really? Oh, that's awesome.
Oh yeah, in Kill la Kill, Ryoko takes a bite of the lemon and then she's like, "Oh, what? You've never had your first taste of adolescence?"
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
So yeah, it's perfectly just like that, and like Furikuri for me is just. I think that's true for me as well, that I watched it once and I thought it was okay. And I was like, this is really crazy. But like watching it a second time and like understanding when the meta jokes are going to happen, I was just like, whatever. This is like a great story on its own. And I really like the characters. Like this is much more than just over the top.
Yeah. Because I think the first time you watch it, you might not fully understand everything that's going on. But I think there's still this emotional resonance that happens when you're watching some of the scenes. And you can just like really feel what they're trying to convey. And one of the big things that hasn't been mentioned yet is it has one of the best soundtracks of all time.
Yes.
Yeah. It's and I think the soundtrack really conveys the emotional tone in various scenes. So even if they're not explicitly telling you what you need to know, you know, you can really get the feeling across really well.
Yeah, the OST fully develops.
Oh my god. Yeah. Oh my god, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you've done this.
Wow, Fate, I wish I was as coolly as you.
Oh my god, no!
That was a Furikuri alternative take on my job.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we can all agree.
On to the next
yeah, we can all agree that Furikuri is a must-watch anime and not straying away too far from Gainax. Fate, what is your must-watch pick?
So on the topic of being snobs, this is not this like is gonna turn from like must-watch classics to like much-watch Gainax classics. So this is a two-parter, and I only get 5 minutes because it's the amount of time that an EVA unit can last without a power. But we're not talking about EVA here. I'm going to be talking about Gunbuster and Diebuster, which I feel like deserve two of their own sections, but for the sake of this, I think like Diebuster can't be watched on its own, really. So I'm going to be talking about them in the context of each other. So Gunbuster was really Hideaki Anno's first directorial work. He's most famous for, of course, Neon Genesis Evangelion, Katakano, and such. And to me, it's a beautiful work of, right? Because it's a beautiful work of like coming of age, which is, a Gainax staple, but it's also one of like love and also this feeling of being part of something larger than yourself. And this idea of like the chosen one, right? So like always you have the hero's journey, right? You always have the chosen one, but like here, like Noriko, she's like a quote unquote chosen one, but as we'll see in Evangelion later, like the chosen one, like nothing is particularly special about her. She just never gives up, and she has this drive to do what's right. And it's like a message saying that like these protagonists aren't so different from you. And it's a wonderful story, and it looks gorgeous. I mean, for its time period, which was 1989, 88, 89. Like it just looks so good. And even like the last episode is sometimes for some reason hit or miss in the community because it's all in black and white. And some people are like, oh, Anno at it again with his budget saving antics. But actually, the black and white episode costs way more than the other episodes. But they purposely went for it because they felt like color couldn't do it justice. And so they just wanted the rawness, the emotion that you could get from watching the last episode in black and white. And then secondly, you have Diebuster, which came way later. It was the 20th anniversary celebration of Gainax. It was by the same director, Tsurumaki, as Fooly Cooly. So thank you, Sinrus, for bringing that up.
Of course.
So they were like, oh, like Fooly Cooly was kind of out there. Can we get even more out there? And this is when we really start seeing like a ton of Gainax poses. Like there's like 3 Gainax poses in every single episode. And it's set way in the future, way, like millions of years in the future, with a girl named Nonoriri who just wants to be a Buster Machine pilot. And it has like, so I watched Gurren Lagann first, and then watching this and then going back to Gurren Lagann made me appreciate Gurren Lagann even more, because like you see the early beginnings of like this coming of age of understanding that like it's you, as like you need to believe in yourself first before you get anything accomplished. And also they're gigantic robots and there's space aliens and there's like gotta save the world, gotta save the universe. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And I love the OP as well. So I know I rambled on a lot for both of these, but like I think on both of them also a pull to Fooly Cooly's like 6 episode-ish because they're both OVAs. So they're both 6 OVAs. You can definitely watch them. Very easy to read. And like the second one, like you just binge through and just feel like awesome and amazing about yourself afterwards.
Yeah. I like comparing them to each other, even though they're so different. Gunbuster is like a very kind of down to earth. It tells the story that space travel is boring. It tells us about loneliness, and it's cool to see in contrast with goofiness and craziness of Diebuster. And then it all kind of ties together perfectly at the end, and it just kind of makes sense together. Like it just balances well this kind of over the top presentation with kind of this feeling of loneliness and being separated from your planet. Yeah, it's interesting.
It carries off the. Yeah, go ahead.
And it's also a mecha series. We don't have those. We don't have many of those in our list, so yeah. Just watch it. Just watch it if you want to get some mecha experience, I guess.
Really also dope mechas.
Yeah, and it's cool to see. It's kind of cool when you think of it as like the original, almost like Evangelion and then Gurren Lagann prototypes, to kind of see where they were inspired from. And I think they're really cool on their own, but just being able to make that connection, it makes them a really fun experience as well. And they're only 6 episodes each, so a full experience in 6 episodes is hard to come by.
I know. Sinrus, how about you? So as someone who loves Fooly Cooly, what do you think about Gun?
Well, you know full well that I haven't seen Diebuster, but that's because I watched Gunbuster and thought it was not good. However, even thinking that the story and characters in Gunbuster were pretty bad, I will 100% echo Sean, everyone else, in saying that seeing it as the precursor to stuff like Evangelion and Gurren Lagann is definitely worth the little amount of time it takes to watch them.
And you actually liked the black and white episode, so all can be forgiven.
Yes, the black and white episode is excellent. By far the best part of the show.
Yes. Also, Sinrus, you like Fooly Cooly, you should watch Diebuster. It's so much fun.
I'll consider it.
The Vespa kind of makes a reappearance.
If we're recommending it to all of our listeners, then I guess I have no choice but to take the recommendation.
I like thinking of that logic for some of my later picks, and you'll have to adapt the same stuff. So.
Yeah.
I'm fucked up.
Speaking of, we're hopping on this imaginary time travel machine and going even further back into the past. And Sha, what is your must-watch classic?
Yeah, so I chose the classic film Akira. It was made in '88, I believe. And it's this really cool post-apocalyptic cyberpunk film that takes place in Neo-Tokyo. And it's supposed to take place around, I think it's 2019. I think it's actually 2019. And they're in this, really, it's kind of an interesting city because it's post-apocalyptic, but it's still fully functioning. But the way in which it's fully functioning is just, this chaotic shit show where it's run by these oppressive government forces, the military controls everything, and there's just absolute chaos in the streets nonstop. There's tons of biker gangs going on, destroying everything, and it almost seems like a day in the life of these people is just street riots, people getting robbed and killed, and there's just absolutely no order about it. But what I really enjoy is how it's a really dense story because it's adapting the manga, but I think it only covers, I think, either 2 or 3 of the manga volumes, but there's a lot left that they don't cover in the film. But it's this really dense story about how absolute power always ends up corrupting either governments or individual people. And we get to see it firsthand through the characters, it's not really a coming of age story, but it's just how
coming to die story.
Yeah, it's how getting more power can really destroy yourself and others around you. And I found it to be a really interesting story, even though I think the story could be probably a bit smoother, and maybe they probably should have made it into a TV series, but the actual film product we got was really stunning. It really conveys this gritty aesthetic in a really beautiful way. And what stood out to me wasn't really just the awesome action scenes where they're riding bikes throughout the streets with all these neon-colored lights, but it was the character animations all the characters had just when they're walking and moving in different ways. It really comes together really nicely. And I think it's just one of the best animated things I've ever seen. And it still holds up even in close to 2019. And as a bonus fun fact, in the film, they're planning for the 2020 Olympics in Neo-Tokyo. And in the real world, we'll have the Summer Olympics in 2020 in Tokyo.
So look out for real-life Akira next year.
Yeah, look out for it.
Just practice your Akira bike skid. That's going to be one of the everything that the Olympic entrants have to do in order to qualify.
Yo, I hope if they don't do that.
If they don't do the bike skid as part of the opening ceremony for the Olympics, I'm going to be so
Worst
mad.
Olympics. Cancel the Olympics.
Yeah.
Wait, as soon as the Canadians come on, someone has to yell out Canada.
That would be absolutely amazing. Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
Akira is one of the all-time great anime movies. It's Kanye West's favorite anime, so
that should be enough.
Yeah.
And you can actually see
a lot more weight.
That's true. But
and it was cool because it's in his song. What's that? Harder, better, fast. Yeah, stronger and stronger. There's a lot of Akira references.
Oh shit! This is just like Akira. Kanye West 20.
Yo shit. Yeah. What? Sorry. What else were you saying?
Oh no, I was also gonna say you're right. It looks absolutely gorgeous, and also that it's first of all it has the highest budget of any anime film ever.
Yeah, I think it's 1 billion yen.
Wow.
Only back in the 1980s too, and it's the only anime to be produced fully in once. So ones, twos, threes, like that deals with frame rates. Long story short, basically threes are like cheaper, twos are usually what you see, with mostly threes in anime, and then ones is like really fucking expensive, and that's what makes it look so smooth.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
And Akira, everything is at once, like the entire. So that's why like it looks so smooth and gorgeous, and it's just like, holy crap! How did they have this much money and time to do this? It's crazy.
It's really like, how did they make this? I'm so kind of amazed how they made it, and it's cool because it kind of like set the foundation for future anime to be made aimed towards adults, because I think a lot of people during that time always thought of cartoons as something for kids, but then they see Akira, which is not for kids, explicitly not for kids, and it kind of opened the door to see animation towards an adult audience that covers more adult themes.
Mm-hmm.
And how it can be successful, really how like successful they can
on
be.
an international scale.
Yeah, that too.
Definitely had a huge influence because it was one of the first ones to go from Japan to the West and like have a very long shelf life here in terms of like VHS sales and laser disc sales, if anyone remembers those.
Yeah. Next one is me. and my anime is a bit recent, especially compared to yours, guys.
Can it really be classic if it wasn't done in 4:3 aspect ratio?
You know, I think this is the only one that can be.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm talking about Monogatari series, of course. Yeah. If you've followed the podcast for a while, you probably know that it's one of my favorites. It was also my gateway anime, actually. Which is kind of weird. Which is kind of weird.
You watched the opening scene to Bakemonogatari with like the pantsu scene with like the timer, and you're like, yes, I should keep watching.
Yes.
I was like, sure, yeah, why not? Yeah, it's probably the most influential title of the century of anime, and it has such insane selling numbers. I believe it's the most selling anime overall right now.
It's the second highest selling of all time after Evangelion.
After NG, right?
Yeah.
By volume, it's fourth, I want to say, behind Eva. No, K-On!, Yuri on Ice, Eva, and then Monogatari.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
but that's on by volume, not like total sales.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's remarkable series. Like its sales are here for a reason. It focuses mostly on characters' relationships and their like mental state, their thoughts, their inner processes. It's also quirky and funny, so it's not like all depressing and hard to watch. It's actually a pretty light show to like gulp together like in one sitting. Even though it's kind of heavy on dialogue, it's still easy to follow, and it's an interesting show overall because it also has this kind of meta narratives here and there. What it means to have a harem. Harem is very prominent topic in anime overall. What it means to be in the story, which is kind of an Nisio Isin, the author of Monogatari light novel. It's kind of his topic, and so on and so forth. There are lots of likable characters, like constant waifu wars. Which girl is the best in Monogatari series? It has like cult following because it has a very active community, and like it's just such an influential show. It's everywhere. Like it's really hard to engulf yourself into the medium if you haven't watched Monogatari series now. It's just like all these light novels, kind of harem-y, kind of heavy on dialogue, they all kind of borrow something from Monogatari series, and they are like everywhere. So like it, don't like it, you have to have an opinion on it. Much.
You snatched this one out from under my feet. Monogatari is not only my favorite anime, but just my favorite like story or piece of media, period, in the world. So I can't talk too much about it because I will go on for hours and we only have 5 minutes. But every single character in it is so powerful, so well written, so clever with their dialogue, and the way that they grow over the course of the 1 year that the main story follows. I've never felt more like I was growing up alongside a set of characters that I have watching this show. It is unbelievably powerful. It changed my life watching this at like a dark time, with its stories about like how the only way to like improve your situation is to like take ownership of your problems and save yourself. I'll cut myself off before I ramble too much longer, but it is an incredibly special series.
I will say this as someone who I don't think I would call myself like a gigantic Monogatari fan. I've gone up to Ski Monogatari, which is still pretty far considering all things considered, but you cannot deny the influence it's had on Japanese media in general. The amount of pull it has in bringing like a star-studded cast and like absolutely amazing animation techniques, just like looking so gorgeous. Kizumonogatari, just like the 3 movies, just look so good, consistent.
My second favorite looking anime thing. I'll have a thing for red.
Kizu 2 is like one of my favorite like anime movies.
Yeah, same.
It's just so good, and like it does a lot of things like because it has so much fan service as well, but it utilizes it in some instances very well, especially in Kizu 2 for me. I have some words to say, but I think generally I'd recommend Kizu, or sorry, not Kizu, Monogatari in general, to everyone. And maybe you don't like it, maybe you do, but as Cav said, I think it's like what you need to have an opinion on it if you want to get into the anime realm.
Yep.
Yep.
And if you want to hear more of our thoughts on Monogatari series overall, we've recorded an episode on it actually like a year ago or so, and you're free to check it out.
Yes.
Yeah, and the community pick for a must watch is nothing else other than Neon Genesis Evangelion. It's a show. It's a show. I don't know. It's
the
such
show
an
that
essential
requires
classic.
no introduction.
It's probably the most stalked show overall, like the most stalked anime of all time. So there's really nothing.
It's clear to say that like anime can be put in, like you can talk about like it can be argued what the most influential anime of the 21st century is, right? Like some people could say Haruhi, some people could say Monogatari, some people could say Keion. Like there's all kinds of arguments there, but the most influential anime is Neon Genesis Evangelion, Shinsekai Evangelion. Anime lives in a pre-Evangelion world and a post-Evangelion world.
And so do I.
No kidding.
It's like I think we've all mentioned it in some length before about like how much Evangelion changed our lives. For me, like I was in a haze after like I binged it over 2 days. I don't remember the next 2 weeks at all. Like I was but Evangelion is just like so good. Ano is just such a genius. It's so real. It's so poignant. It's so emotional.
Yeah.
It also looks great.
Forget about like the most influential anime. NG is easily in the running for like the most influential piece of media of the 1990s and the most like important piece of media in Japanese cultural history.
Oh yeah.
Outside like Pokemon.
Yeah. Or like there's like the Tales of Genji, Pokemon.
Yeah, it's really hard to measure how truly groundbreaking the series is, but I want to say it doesn't matter. Just watch it for memes. Memes are the most important.
Memes are you gotta do it for the mean mug and Shinji.
Yeah, you gotta understand why Shinji needs to get into the fucking robot. You
And
gotta
if he
understand
actually
congratulations.
does.
And then you have to watch 3.33 to realize, no, Shinji, you should not get into the robot.
Yeah, you need to know why Shinji is so fucked up.
Yeah.
And Antabaka and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you also have to see like what is widely considered the greatest anime fight scene of all time.
Yeah.
And just like
In
Yeah.
End of Evangelion. Yeah.
yeah, just the end of Eva fight, just like so influential. So many people worked on that who just like went on to be so crazy important. And then like already you had such masters working on it. Like every cut is by like one of the most famous animators in Japanese anime history. It's like freaking insane how crazy Evangelion is. Watch it; it's so good. Also, like, the elevator scene is like if you haven't seen it, it's really good. Yeah, I think you'll really like it.
This, but unironically.
It's also such a like overall unique series that it's cool to think about how it came to exist and how it does exist. But I think it's also interesting when you think of like the first half and the second half and just like what it becomes. I think it's kind of an interesting series that like it almost feels like the show internally is falling apart at the same time it is externally. And it produces this really like meta weird experience of like the show is falling apart, but I'm also falling apart watching the show. So we're all on the same wavelength. And like Anno was falling apart. So you can feel like if you want to feel like on the same wavelength as Eva, like
just fall apart.
Just fall apart at the same time.
Just come tumbling down.
Yeah.
It all comes tumbling down.
Yeah.
Comes tumbling down. Man. And like the fact that like once you watch Eva, you can't watch an anime, like any anime afterwards without seeing like, especially a popular anime, without seeing some sort of Eva reference.
Yeah. Everyone does the Gendo pose.
Like
when they're trying to look like super, like a corporate figure trying to look intimidating. Like every time.
You always hear the timpanis like bum 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 bum, like the
battle
angel
music.
attack, the angel attack music. The elevator scene gets memed to death a lot. Like Nisekoi had it, Sword Art Online 2 had it.
You also
all
see
the classics have it.
The Asuka and Rei archetypes are like in every single show.
The Rei XP. I mean, like Haruhi has like Rei Ayanami. Rei means ice, and Ayanami was a battleship in World War II in the Japanese Navy. And Yuki Nagato. Yuki means snow, and Nagato was also
oh wow! I never put that together.
Japanese military in World War II. So it's great. And also, if you go to Japan, you cannot walk into any store without seeing some sort of Eva merch.
They have like bullet trains painted to look like
they have
Unit 02.
Ooh, do you get to pick which train you go on, just like which waifu train you get on?
No, you have to plan your trip around it, and then they retired the Shinsanken for Eva.
It's okay. I plan my anime around which waifus I want to support. So what is traveling?
I mean, what are trains but waifus?
You, unironically, though.
It's kind of interesting that Evangelion criticizes Japanese society, but at the same time, it's one of the proudest achievements of Japanese industry.
A lot of people don't get it. They like unironically are like, oh man, like Evangelion does such a good job of like waifu-fying like Ayanami and Asuka, and the entire time Anna was like, you guys are so fucked up.
So if you watch the show and like unironically want to waifu them, you continue Anno's suffering, which is do we continue his suffering or like fall into like his opinion and like just
I
always
don't
agree
mind
with him?
suffering him.
Gotta keep the suffering.
Asuka is hot. Come on.
And the more Anno suffers, the more art we get from him. So
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. In any case, it was our section on must-watch classics.
So do it. Watch them.
Watch them. Must watch.
You must watch these.
You must watch this. You also must watch this anime, which we're going to follow up with. It's our hidden gems or underwatch shows, which we feel like are also really good, but kind of not on the same popularity as other picks. So we want to bring out your attention to these pretty good shows, I would say. And Sinrus has a good one to recommend.
Alright, so my first one, we're going to do two. Each of us are going to do two of these. My first is going to be Kyousogiga. This is kind of similar to Fooly Cooly in terms of tone. Just a very strange series, ridiculously over-the-top, energetic, with a story that, while really powerful and complex, can get easily lost underneath the madness happening on screen at first glance. But unlike Fully Cooley, it's less of a coming-of-age story, and it's more about family ties, both biological families and also found families, and how you're connected to the members in your family, and for better or worse, you kind of have some level of obligation to them, but also how those ties can be used to, like, fuck people up, and how everyone's parents, like, break them to some degree as children, and then, like, you grow up and you have to deal with the mistakes that they made. It's bizarre, and it's charming, and it's sad. It
is about responsibility, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen any other show that I could more accurately describe as a roller coaster than this one.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's a really coolly, like, structured series because
Really
it's
coolly?
only really coolly. Oh my god, I hate it. It's got a really cool structure to it, and I think it's only 10 episodes, depending.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's only 10 episodes, but they really do a great job of, like, establishing the town and overall, like, really fun atmosphere to it. So you don't feel like you have a lot of build up to the really, like, emotionally hard hitting parts. And it's cool how they explore all of the characters, so it really comes together in the end. I just thought, like, the other day for this, and it was a really cool experience, because I wasn't really sure if I would enjoy it, because I had seen Kyoukai Sensen, which has the same director as this, but I think it works so well, the art style is so cool, and I think the family themes come across really well.
Yeah, I agree. It's crazy, it's over the top, but it's kind of talks about rather mundane things like family, and it talks, like, in such an interesting way, and it is charming. I don't know how to describe it. It's a very sincere drama despite it being so crazy.
And I think you can get the main points of it really clearly through all the craziness. Like, it doesn't get too over the top and, like, the chaos going on around to, they don't shy on the main points.
Yeah, it is an unconventional family, but it feels real. It feels really real. I also want to say that it has the very best explanation of the word love in anime, and it's something I really, really came to, like, adore about the story. How it handles the topic of love in general, like, not liking someone, but, like, this serious feeling of affection, of love, of, I don't know. It's really something else for me. It was really cool. And yeah, it's short. It has gorgeous OST, opening, ending is great. And yeah, if you like your
Yep.
It's 10 episodes, yeah. Mm-hmm. If you like your anime a bit weird, but like not too weird, I guess Kyousogiga is your pick.
It's a good balance of weird but not too weird.
I mean, I'm gonna have to watch it now. At first,
well, it is recommended.
I was only going to watch it. See, it's not only recommended; it's also underwatched. So
fix that.
Hey, I'm going to try to. So I have to know this before we start. You say it's over the top. It's kind of like Fooly Cooly. Is there a Kyousogiga drill breaker or?
Ooh.
No.
There is a giant robot in it.
Oh
yep.
yeah.
Wait.
Which it's like a series very much steeped in, like, classical Japanese myth and, like,
wait, that's amazing.
And, like, bodhisattvas, but then also there's a giant robot in it.
Wait, I need to see this. Why haven't you told me about this before?
We did. We came up with the list.
Yeah, we actually did.
Wait, come on. We can't let the listeners know I didn't see it on. Come on, guys. We're trying to help them out here. But yeah.
Okay, Fate. Redeem yourself with your pick.
Okay, thank you. Well, the next pick I want to talk about is, so you talked about how Kyousogiga kind of tells you the feeling of, the truest feeling of what love is like. For me, my next pick, which is Tamako Market and Tamako Love Story. So Tamako Market to me really embodies what a family is like, and not just like your, blood relatives, but what, like, a larger community a close community, like a family feels like. And so Tamako Market is by this director I might have mentioned before on other episodes. Her name is Naoko Yamada. This is by Killed Animation. Came out in 2013. If this is somehow the first podcast you're listening by us, I talk about Yamada like nonstop. And this is actually this is definitely her least watched work. Tamako Market is, as a TV series. It's not based off of any established work. It's an original anime that she wanted to do after doing 2 seasons of K-On!, which is an interesting business decision to start, because like K-On! Sold like hotcakes used to sell. And she decided to do Tamako Market instead. And what she created was this TV show that was like very unique in what it wanted to do, in that it was kind of a cute girls doing cute things, slice of life show, but it was also, it was just so content with telling very small stories about their life without ever feeling like it was trying to exploit something from you. It wasn't ever trying to like really sell merch or anything. It was just like, this is a story of people in their daily lives, the daughter of a mochi maker, and also there's a magical talking bird. We do have to talk about Dara. Dara is a sticking point for a lot of people. But he's kind of necessary in the fact that he's like the only adult, even though he's like crazy and immature. He says the most important things at the right times, as each one of the cast members, from Tamako herself to her friend Midori, Kanna, Shiori, Anko, he always points them in the right direction where they can grow themselves. And that is really taken to the next level in Tamako Love Story, which is the sequel movie to Tamako Market, which you cannot see on its own. I don't think it's just not enough. And it's a love story. It's a romance about Tamako and her childhood friend Mochizo, who lived across the street their entire lives. Also the son of a mochi maker. And though it's a love story, it's also Tamako coming to terms with like not only being loved, but also loving someone else, and what it means to be loved, not just by like romantically, but family wise. And just there's so many great moments between her and her father. Her mother, who passed away before the series began, is always in the back of her mind. It looks absolutely gorgeous. You really get to see Yamada feeling comfortable with her own style, a very distinct style of directing, and being like, oh, I can do this with movies. So for me, I love it. I think it's a little underwatched, but I've been hosting the annual Our Anime Valentine's Day rewatch for Tamako Market and Love Story. Not to plug it in too hard. So if you think it's underwatched, please join in. I know several of the members of the podcast have joined in on it before, like Shaw.
And
yeah, that's how I saw it.
This coming year.
Yes, Sinrus.
Nice.
I want to join as well.
Yes, Cam.
Yeah, it's a really fun watch. I think the Tamako Market is generally like a pretty standard kind of slice of life, but it does have those really like emotionally connecting moments over family and community, so it was a really fun watch. But Tamako Love Story is my favorite pure romance in anime. It is just the cutest, sweetest thing. I had so much fun watching it, but it also still maintains those themes of family and community, as you said. Like one of my favorite parts is just like a conversation between Mochizo and Tamako's dad about, you know, what it means to kind of like go and accomplish your dream, but like don't forget where home is and don't forget to come back to home and, you know, maintain those connections. And I thought that was like really powerful. And it has moments like that where it talks about not just, oh, family is family, but the meaning of family, the meaning of community. And I think it makes it a really fun but still substantive work.
Mm-hmm. And it also, like, you really get to see Yamada, and this becomes definitely appropriate with Listen to Bluebird just having dropped, but like Yamada doing a really good job of showing and handling queer relationships with Midori, Tamako's friend, and her feelings throughout the show. And you kind of see that blossoming. You kind of get it a little bit in UFO, and then like it is full blown in Liz. So if you kind of want to see like like let's say you've watched Liz recently or Euphonium and you haven't seen Tamako Market Love Story, or you've seen K-On! And you kind of wonder like what came in between, like how did she get to this point where she's so acclaimed, like Tamako Market, Tamako Love Story is right there. And even Tamako Love Story like won a ton of awards and was considered like by some of the OG people in anime to be the pinnacle of what anime is in the modern era. So yeah, so that's me and Tamako Market, Tamako Love Story.
That was a crazy monologue, man.
I kind of talked a lot about Tamako Market and Love
He
Story.
did a presentation
You
on
do
it.
like this show a
Yeah,
lot, yeah.
you can tell how passionate you are about this show.
For years, I felt like I was the only person who knew who Yamada was on the internet, so I like perfected my 5-minute spiel on it.
He's like
Yeah.
the door-to-door Bible salesman, but Yamada salesman. Hello, can I interest you in our Lord and Savior Yamada?
Yeah,
But unironically.
Here's some shots of Yamada legs, and here's some shots of Yamada hands. Here's a train that Yamada directed.
Wait, this is sounding. This got weird. It's like sounds like you're taking pictures of Yamada as she's going around.
It's Yamada taking shots of people's legs in the show. Anyway,
yeah. Sha, are you going to preach to Naoki Urasawa as well?
Yeah.
As much as
oh, this is also a family-friendly anime, right, Shaw, that you're going to recommend?
Yeah, the show
It is
Monster is a family-friendly anime that everyone can enjoy. Yeah. No, so this is also kind of weird, because I feel like it's not, like, completely unknown, but I still think it's pretty underwatched, and that it's, like, that show that everyone has heard of, but then they don't watch because it's 70 episodes. Or it's 74 episodes, but yeah, so I'm here to show Monster. I think this always ends up on someone's list at some point because I think people want to watch like a mature kind of drama thriller with adult cast members, and then everyone's like, yeah, just watch Monster. And then they're like, oh wait, it's 74 episodes, I don't want to watch that. But it's a really fulfilling 74 episodes because I think it does a lot more than just tell a story. It does a great job of kind of setting up this atmosphere of the 90s in Germany after the wall has fallen, and it kind of talks about a bunch of different themes of kind of like the fallout of war, what happens to the children who have experienced war, and what kind of affiliations they experience as they grow up in these really tumultuous, like, chaotic times. But it's mostly just a crime thriller that's a lot of a slow burn crime thriller, you know. It's not like a cliffhanger every episode, but it's essentially this cat and mouse chase between Dr. Tenma and Johann Liebert, who is one of the most notorious anime villains of all time. And it does an interesting job kind of exploring Tenma as he's exploring this environment as he's trying to track down Johann. And I don't want to spoil too much, but it does a really great job of setting up this atmosphere and making the mystery more about, you know, who is Johann and how did he come to be this insane figure that he is. And I think part of what makes it so powerful is there's no supernatural elements in the story, but a lot of the characters have this weird intensity about them and this influence over the people around them that they almost feel like these supernatural figures. So it does a great job of making Johann feel like a legitimate supernatural monster that someone has to defeat, even though for all intents and purposes, he's just an everyday dude. But I think it's a really powerful story, and it's one that gets better the more you watch. And I think the supporting cast really makes it feel like this really full experience.
Yeah, because it's full adaptation as
Yep.
well.
Haha. And it has an ending. Haha.
Full Metal adaptation.
Ooh.
Full Metal adaptation. Yeah, I feel like Sha nailed the main points of this story. Well, it has a very cool setting, like Germany of 90s.
Yeah.
Where else in the anime have you seen it? I don't think you've seen it anywhere else.
Yeah.
And it's haunting, it's immersive. It doesn't feel like you're watching anime, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like you're watching a thriller, like with lots of realistic characters and like this documentative approach. It's an experience. Do not really be like too scared by a number of episodes. They're it's actually pretty easy to watch. There's like nothing too
It goes by
psychological,
fast.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's nothing like too crazy, too psychological, too like over the top or pretentious here. It's just a really, really well written thriller.
I mean, I haven't
yeah.
seen it, so
I feel like Sinrus is gonna slay it, but I'm scared.
No,
if
I'm not going to say
dab on them, Sinrus.
if you feel like watching an anime about murder and responsibility, give Monster a try. Definitely, it's really good. Yeah, and
Johan, right? All I
Johan.
know is there's Johan, and like he's terrifying,
Johan.
or he's a good
Yeah.
guy. I don't know.
Yeah, fun fact, the actor who's the voice actor who's the main antagonist in Akira ends up voicing Johan, which is like how many, like over 10 years later. And it's cool because Johan is really creepy for many reasons, but I think one that really stands out is he kind of sounds like the Japanese Michael Jackson. So he's like this grown dude who sounds like a little kid, and I'm like, this is not what I want right now. Like, this is really creepy. So it brings it together really nicely.
Is that why it's considered a
guess that's
thriller?
true.
Because of Michael Jackson?
Oh my god, I can't even be mad about that. I can't even be mad about that joke.
come on, Fate, come on.
I got you.
Well, yeah,
All right, Cav, what have you got for us?
my pick is anime called Dennou Coil.
Ooh.
What else?
It's kind of underwatched, but at the same time it's highly rated, so it's a perfect pick.
It's
for
a
this.
perfect snob pick, is what you're saying.
It's a perfect snob pick, yes, and I'm a snob. I'm proud of it. In any case, yeah, to follow up on this snob anime, I'm going to say some snob things about it. So in my anime writing, I usually like prefer like three aspects: the world building, characters, and plot story. And I feel like Dennou Coil is one of the very few shows which excels in all of them. World building is really curious because it's not so distant future, and there is technology which allows you to see augmented reality through some kind of simplistic glasses. But when you put them on, you see some kind of paths, some kind of glitches, some kind of objects that you do not see with your normal eyes. So it's like a different reality, but at the same time it doesn't really affect actual reality. So it's interesting how it all works, how it all blends together.
It's like Pokemon Go.
Kind of, yeah. And there are kids and there are balls, so yeah, you could say so. Yeah, it also tells this kind of serious topics, but in non-preachy, non-pretentious way. So like if you were not really fond of series like Star Express Lane, which is kind of similar to it, Dennou Coil isn't like that much, so it kind of touches the same topics. Plot itself is really good. It's one of my favorite stories overall. It's about kids, but kids are growing up and they kind of try to interact with this augmented reality, and they uncover some really interesting mysteries about the technology, about what kind of ideas lie behind it. And there are some really not dark and mature, but kind of serious themes hidden here. And it touches some heavy topics, like in the long run. And characters themselves, they're not really charismatic or like too memorable, I guess, but they fit the story really well. And their interactions feel very natural. Isako and Yasuko, the main characters, have really good chemistry together, and it just all works very well together. Fate mentioned before about Asuka's famous scene in Evangelion, right?
Yes.
It was animated by Mitsuo Iso, who was, after that, became a director of Dennou Coil.
Oh.
So it's the same guy, yeah. Yeah, and Dennou Coil was in production for 10 years. It's a very long project, long-standing project.
Wow.
Yeah, and it got released in 10 years ago, even though it was in production since 90s. And it's an interesting show. It's a very curious overall outlook on cyber technology, I would say. It's interesting.
This might be kind of a sus comparison, so feel free to call me out on it. But having just watched the show last week myself, I feel like Dennou Coil is the love child of Serial Experiments Lane, Steins Gate, and the Goonies.
I feel
That's
that.
quite a love child.
I feel that.
It's got that Lane-esque feeling of being from an era when technology, especially the internet, was this new and scary thing that nobody actually understood. The show was very much focused around these rumors about the glasses technology. Every episode begins with the main character saying there's a rumor among these people that if you use your glasses the wrong way, then the internet demons will suck your soul out through your eyes or something like that. There's that kind of thing that anybody who understands the internet now knows is ridiculous, but back in the day when people didn't know what the internet was, only that it could do what seemed impossible and was suddenly everywhere, these seemed like legit fears, which is also something that comes up in Steins Gate, but even more deep than that, the way that the show develops itself, where the beginning is very, the first half is very much devoted to the main cast, this group of kids just hanging out, being friends, going on their goofy, goony elementary school adventures, and kind of uncovering some mysteries in the process, but mostly just having a good time with it before the second half rolls around, and then the results of the things that they've uncovered start coming back to bite them, and the second half is very dramatic and very intense.
And it's cool how, no matter what, I think it very much feels like a kid's show. It always feels like these are kids going on kid adventures, and they have kid perspective on everything. Yeah. A very childlike perspective on everything. So it's cool because you can definitely get that Goonies feel where it's okay, we're just kids trying to battle things in our scope of responsibility, but it makes the product really unique and really fulfilling. It's cool. It's a really cool watch.
Yeah, and many people say it's if Sarah's Experience Lane or Ghost in the Shell was created by Ghibli.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
I like Sinrus more because it's more crazy, but I'm down with both. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's an interesting show. And I recommend watching it. So going back to Sinrus, you have one more hidden gem to talk about.
Yes, I do. So this one is a big departure from my previous wild and crazy suggestions. This one is Girls Last Tour, which I think is the most recent show that we're going to recommend. It aired, it ended in December of 2017, so basically a year ago from when we're recording this. This show completely blindsided me. I didn't pay any attention to it when it started airing until a couple people told me I should check it out, and then it absolutely captured my imagination, captured my heart. It's about these two girls who are of kind of indeterminate age, but pretty young, maybe in their early teens at the oldest, who at the end of an apocalyptic war were given this small vehicle by their grandfather, and he just sent them out into the wasteland to escape from the approaching enemies. And it's all about it's a slice of life show, but the life that they're living is this one of complete desolation where they're scrounging for food every episode. They never know where the next meal is going to come from. They never know if they're going to run out of gas before they find another refueling station and be stranded in the middle of nowhere. But during the course of these like brutal, difficult daily situations that they find themselves in, their dynamic is what makes the show so special, because they're such different people and they have different strengths, but they bounce off of each other because one of them is like flighty and kind of an idiot, and like they're running out of fuel for their fire in the middle of winter one time, so she like throws a book on the fire, and it's one of like the last 4 books in existence, and the other one has to like scramble to grab the book out of the fire and put it out. So they come into conflict a lot because their priorities and their personalities are so different, but they absolutely rely on each other because for all they know, they might be the only 2 people left in the world. And although it's definitely not a preachy show, and it's definitely not like a too deep for you kind of pretentious show, just in the ways that they treat each other, there's so much unspoken about how they feel about each other and how they feel about their place in this desolate world. And it's a lovely, in that corner of the world. It's this like lovely mixture of really sweet and heartwarming for their friendship, and also really sad and scary because there's this constant feeling that nothing good is actually ever going to happen to them, because there's nothing good left in this world aside from just maybe they'll stumble across the next meal.
Big mood. I mean, no, not like that.
Yeah, I agree with you here. It balances really well, like the desolate world and quirky interactions of the characters. It's really dark, but at the same time you don't feel really oppressed of like watching it. So it makes for a really interesting experience. It's probably the most philosophical adventure slice of life series out there, outside of Kino's Journey, I guess. And it's just about 2 girls being lost in the middle of nowhere, and intricately crafted atmosphere of this post-apocalyptic world where neither hope nor despair matter. You just go forward and don't think about anything else.
What's the one phrase of the show? It's like the embracing despair or melancholy. I forget which one it was, but it's something about embracing the despair. Was one of the characters like kind of joking like taglines.
It was you who was thinking Zetsubou, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everyone. It's kind of cool too because you think of a lot of slice of life, and I feel like they're either like that really comfy or somewhat like funny aspects. Like there are a lot of comedy slice of life, but this is a great one for really slice of life format. But it's, you know, as you've said, very melancholic, atmospheric. So it's a nice change of pace to a lot of slice of lives out there, and I think it's a fun one to watch for a cool, unique experience.
And even then, it does have the stuff that you go to slice of life for, right?
Right.
Because it's got the cute girls. They're very charming. They're very funny.
They're potatoes,
It's just, you know in the back of your mind the whole time that while they're like being cute and charming and making jokes with each other, that it's against this backdrop of absolute desolation. That's what gives the series its power, is the contrast between the tone of the world and the tone of the characters.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I really love it. I was surprised with how much I liked it.
Me too.
I didn't think I'd like it that much, but like the quiet moments, the rain scene.
Oh, my heart.
So good. The ending was a little weird for me, but I still
Read the manga if you haven't.
Oh
yeah,
the manga
it's about 2/3. The show ends about 2/3 of the way through the manga.
Naruhodo. Well, I have to watch it.
Speaking of unique experiences, Fate, you got an interesting pick here.
Yes, so we mentioned one Gatari earlier by Nisho Ishin. Let's talk about another. So today I'm going to be talking about Katanagatari as by White Fox as my other hidden gem / underwatch show. it's interesting, right? There was that one video, I forget which YouTuber put out, like, the best anime you can't watch legally. Because Katanagatari, you technically cannot watch legally in the West anymore. I think this NIS America lost the rights to it. But despite the struggles you may have in trying to track down this anime, it is well worth your time. It had a really interesting and unique airing schedule, as Cav alluded to, in that whereas pretty much almost every anime episode nowadays is like 22 to 24 minutes, accounting for commercials and half-hour blocks, right? Katanagatari was an hour long for each episode, and it aired one episode per month for 12 months for 12 episodes. Mm-hmm. And it just like hit on everything I loved about storytelling, much in the same way that Cav and Sinrus talked about with Monogatari, and that it's the premise is, right, there's these like super demonic swords, the deviant blades scattered across Japan, and 12 of them are like really freaking strong, and the emperor wants to go out and he enlists Togame, the strategian of the shogunate, to go and round up all 12 of them, and each one of the 12 is strong enough that they could probably just rule a nation with just that one sword. So, of course, when you're trying to get a bunch of swords, who do you enlist but a swordsman? And so she enlists the help of Shichika, the son of an exiled swordsman who is known for his Kyoto Ryu. Now, the only problem is that the Kyoto Ryu swordsman style has no swords. So he fights with no swords against these crazy swords because he is the sword. And so Katanagatari literally translates the sword story. So it's a story about the swords, but it's also a story about Shichika as the sword becoming less of a sword and becoming more of a person. And it's beautiful. It's devastating. It's so great. It's like, because it's set in like the 1800s-ish in Japan, there's a lot of like the old-time Japanese feel to it. The visuals are so unlike anything else you'll see, especially episode 7. Just has a completely different art style for that episode.
Beautiful character designs.
Beautiful characters. Oh my god. It just looks so great, so unique. The fights are amazing. Gosh, the fight in episode 4 that they allude to in the preview after episode 3, it's just like one of the all-time greatest fights. I think you guys can agree with me on that.
Yep.
Yeah, actually, we've been talking up the NGE fight scene, but the fight against Sabi Hakuhei is like undoubtedly better.
Yes. That, oh my god, I can't even describe it. It's beyond description. But while there's so many fight scenes, like, yes, Monogatari, like, Nishio Ishin just likes being super wordy, and there's lots of dialogue in this. And even though there's so much dialogue and so much being said and so much pause between the action, between the fights, like, for me, I never felt like there was never enough happening. There was always something involving with the relationships, something involving with the world building. And I also hate Shaw because, like, she recommended the show. And, like, I had so many emotions by the end of it.
You sent me a Snapchat of you crying. It was pretty great.
Oh my god.
So it's just like, he's, like, Snapchatting the ending, and he's like, fuck you, Shaw.
Yeah,
That's
it was.
good.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was, I had a lot of fun bawling my eyes out, because it adheres a lot to the like traditional samurai, swordsman, ronin, kenshin stories. So it was a lot of fun, and you learn a lot about Japanese history through it. I think it's probably the best way to learn about Japanese history is watch Katanagatari, because obviously it's very true to life.
Yeah, I would say if you're like an advanced anime viewer and like feel like you've seen it all, you have to watch Katanagatari because it twists your expectations all the time. It's a story about swords, which are not about swords. There are fights which kind of on the screen and not at the same time. Characters which kind of develop and kind of not. Ending which is kind of interesting as well. I wouldn't say
the
more
ending
here.
Infamous for subverting every expectation you've ever had about storytelling.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's neither isn't, by the way, so yeah, you know what to expect.
Subverting expectations and really good dialogue are like his two things.
Yeah, I think the dialogue is really great. It's Togami and Shikia have like one of the best dynamics in anime. I think it's just so fun to watch them evolve and the different ways that they grow attached to each other. It's just so fun to watch. So I think they're like the real heart of the story for me, and they're what I grew really attached to. And yeah, we all know how we emotionally end up in this, so I will not comment on that more.
It's crazy because like even if you get told that, like it subverts how you think the emotions will happen. Because you're just like,
yeah, that's true.
Because like you're like, oh, it's gonna be this way, and it's not like, and like he consistently does it. Like one of my favorite moments is with the Maniwani, the ninja that each have their own like verbal tics. And then there's one that talks backwards.
Oh my gosh.
They also have like a lot of meta commentary too. Togami being like, yo, like Shichika, like I'm writing the reports of your story. You gotta make it more interesting. Otherwise,
you need a tagline. You need a catchphrase.
Otherwise, like the readers at home, they're not gonna enjoy this, man. So I hope you watch this, but by that time you will have been torn to pieces.
Ooh, spicy.
What a spicy take, yeah. Speaking of some spicy animals there,
Ooh.
Sha's got one.
Ooh, so I actually found an underwatched show for this one, and not just like, hey, watch my stuff, guys. So this one is a somewhat underwatched shoujo called Nana. So this one is a drama about these two girls, both named Nana, and how they are trying to accomplish their dreams as they move to Tokyo, and they're in their early 20s. That sounds like a really generic summary of it, but what's cool is Nana is a drama about kind of trying to accomplish your dreams, but accepting the bittersweetness that is being an adult and having to compromise on your dreams in order to be the happiest you can be, but also making others happy around you. So what I really enjoy about this is both Nanas are really well written. Actually, I'd say the whole cast is really well written. So they really feel like these 20-year-old kids who have these big dreams, but they don't really know how to make them happen. And they're also still kind of coming into their own and trying to find their own self-worth. And they really illustrate this well by showing like the thoughts and dialogue that these characters have in a way that shows just how true to themselves they are. I think one of the two Nanas, her name is Hachi, and she's kind of just like this huge idiot, but she kind of like can't help it. She always wants to find like the perfect husband, and she just wants to really be a wife to a husband who loves her, but she just goes through like guys the worst way possible, and it's kind of fun to watch, but it's also painful because I think we've all seen friends like this who are willing to sacrifice long-term happiness for like immediate happiness. But the way that they present this is in a way that I feel is like really sympathetic and authentic. And it has a lot of like really strong emotional moments, but it never really feels melodramatic. It just kind of comes to these really big points in their lives in a way that feels very bittersweet, but realistic. And I think it's a really interesting journey that I felt really attached to almost immediately. But it was an emotional roller coaster. It wasn't emotionally manipulative, really. I just kind of grew attached to these characters and really wanted them to be happy. So I had times when I was like really rooting for them and then like almost crying for them because you really get attached to the characters early on. Right. And it's unfortunately not a completed work because it's on a hiatus that makes Hunter x Hunter looks like a regular serialization. Like, it's been on hiatus, I think. Yeah, she's been on hiatus.
Berserk has nothing on it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been on hiatus, I think, for almost 10 years.
Jesus.
But it's kind of cool because the ending point doesn't really feel like
such a glowy brain ending, man. Oh, it's hard to put in words.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because it's always like following their lives, so it kind of just like ends up at some point. Like, it's somewhat of a stopping point, but I do wish there was more of it. So yeah, it's one of those bittersweet drama romances that I think a lot of people are in the market for, because sometimes you just want that authentic romance, but authentic drama romance that doesn't really feel, unrealistic in how it makes you feel things. But also what I really appreciate about this is just, like, the cherry on top is I've never seen another anime, let alone, like, probably a piece of medium that really captures the way girls think as well as this. There were just so many times where, I think, speaking of Hachi, there was one time where she had plans to meet up with her boyfriend, and he didn't show up, and you just see her spiraling out of all the possible things that could have gone wrong, like, oh my god, he's cheating on me, he hates me, like, he's out with another girl right now, and it just turns out to be, like, you know, a understanding about text messages, and, like, he sent her a text message and she didn't get it, but, like, the way that she thinks just spirals out of control, and I think a lot of people have felt this when, like, their insecurities get the best of them, and it really leads them to a dark place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's great about that is the, like, this text message doesn't turn into, like, this big drama, like, melodramatic misunderstanding thing like it would in a lot of other series.
You mean Mario Kart written series?
Yeah, right.
This is not a Mario Kart story.
There's a scene of her just, like, freaking out and, like, questioning everything about, like, why did I, like, move to Tokyo to, like, be with this guy if he's going to, like, start cheating on me so soon after I get there and everything, and just, like, questioning everything about what she's doing in her life. And then he gets home, like, 5 minutes later, and the moment passes. But that's what makes Nana so special and sets it apart from everything else, is that it's a extremely strong, realistic depiction of adult relationships.
Yeah.
That very few other shows I've ever seen can measure up to.
It has very deep insight into thoughts of the characters, I would say. Like, you could see pretty much everything what characters think about themselves, about their stories, about their lives. It's interesting. It's kind of a post-romance for me, because most of romance happen in high school. They're, like, kind of cheery, hopeful, and kind of simplistic. Here, you see the other side of relationships, which kind of happen after you graduate. It's hard to watch at times, but it's interesting overall. It was a unique experience overall.
Yeah.
So yeah, watch it. And my own final pick here is an anime called Princess Tutu. You probably heard about it. It's kind of mahou I would say, but at the same time not really. It's really influenced by classic stories, like classic tales, and not like Japanese, but
fairy tales.
Like westerns, fairy tales, right. It's deceptively simple. It's really cute and funny at the start, but in the second half, it turns out to be very, well, let's say, creative and imaginative, I guess. It shares the same plot trajectory as Dennou Coil, which kind of also starts slow, cute, but then it goes places. Like it really expands itself, and the story is amazing. I would say it's probably my favorite plot in anime overall in Princess Tutu. It's so meta. It's so postmodernistic. It's really hard to describe without even like putting into words, even spoiling it, and I should not spoil it at all. So I would just go as far and say it's probably my favorite plot. It's like how everything flows together, how the story expands, reveals itself, how it quite literally writes itself. And and the ending itself catches you off guard, how non-banal it is, how bittersweet it is. It's really brilliant. It's one of my favorites of all time. I cannot recommend it enough. And it should have been Mako Madoka here, but instead it's Princess Tutu, so it speaks for itself, I guess.
Princess Tutu is Madoka, but better. You heard it here first.
Oh shit!
I think
it's 2018.
Madoka down on his favorites for Princess Tutu. I remember.
That's what happened a year ago. Yes, exactly.
Get dabbed on.
Oh wow! So like unironically.
I didn't even know that. That's crazy.
Good thing I'm always their stalking Mal favorites. You heard it here first. Haha.
I'm once again saying that I'm a very big snob, I guess.
Yeah.
Confirming my status.
But I think with Princess Tutu, it's such an accessible show, because I remember seeing it being posted on Tumblr back in the day, even like outside anime spheres, because it's really just such a unique piece of work that, you know, it is an anime, but it doesn't really feel like an anime, so to speak. And it's kind of cool because...
stage production.
Because it also takes... Mm-hmm. Yeah, it takes in a lot of, like, fairy tale influences, and it has a lot of ballet influences as well. Yeah. And it's really cool because each episode starts with Once Upon a Time, and it gives, like, a summary of a fairy tale. So it really does kind of feel like a lot of commentary on storytelling as a whole, which makes
or does it start off with a summary of what the episode's going to be about?
Yeah, but it's also a fairy tale. Like, you don't know until you watch the episode.
Exactly.
But it's cool. It's cool how it really works out. The characters are really likable. It's so cute and charming, but I think it does a good job of being mature and serious and having really dark aspects without ever being edgy. Like, it would never be considered an edgy show. It's just... You know, how sometimes, like, the actual fairy tales that we've consumed, they have really serious story elements to them that don't necessarily end in a happily ever after. And that's something that we can experience with this.
I was contracted this anime by none other than Princess Tutu on our anime.
The real-life Princess Tutu.
The real-life Princess Tutu right on my anime list. And I just absolutely loved it. I did not expect... And this is another one of those things where I was like, I figured it'd be like one of those snob things that like I'd appreciate but wouldn't enjoy. But it actually came out to be something like I really enjoyed so much. Like the music is great. It's not like it's not an OST, right? Because it's not an original soundtrack, but like
really just the Nutcracker.
It's
the Nutcracker and a lot of Tchaikovsky, other ballet pieces, the Polovskian dances, the exhibition pictures on an exhibition, like a lot of really great classical music. Is played throughout, and I really liked it so much so that I actually got tickets to see Tchaikovsky's Romeo and Juliet by the New York City Ballet Company in February. So that's how much I would recommend Tutu, that I would go to see actual ballet for this.
Also, Fakir best guy.
Fakir, Rue best girl.
Yeah.
No, I won't. I will not agree.
Rue is like the Ueno.
Cav will agree with me, right? Cav, you're with me, right?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yes, let's go. Duck Squad, roll up.
Yeah, I feel like Fate... I feel like Fate touched a very interesting point here, that it seems like a snob show, but it's such a non-snob show.
It was the easiest show to watch.
It. Yeah.
I watched it in 2 days, and I finished this morning.
It also was so weird for me because I had just finished watching the first season of Aria, and I wasn't the biggest fan of the Aria season 1. And then I was like, this is going to be another snob show, isn't it? But it's not. Like, you would never know it's the same director. Or at least from season 1.
Same as Aria?
Oh. Yeah, same as Aria.
Oh, that's cool.
Ooh.
Right? Like, they're completely, like...
But both good.
Tutu feels like a complete stage production, like, very, like, deliberate with its, like, actual uses of, like, theater lighting and spotlights. And, like, Aria aims to be as, like, naturalistic in the future as you can be. So...
And it also looks really good for something that was made in, like, 2003.
Yeah, Tutu, yeah.
Yeah, but, Area is for another group. But now, we've got some community picks to talk about. It's, I remind you, Hidden Gems Under Watch Shows category. Yeah, and we've got a show called Rakugo.
Shouwa, Genroku, Rakugo, Shinjuu.
Exactly, yeah.
This is another of my personal favorites, so I'm happy. Well, both of the community picks are my personal favorites, so I'm very proud of the community right now.
We are all Sinrus on this blessed day.
Yeah.
But this is another show that just aired in the past couple years. Rakugo is such a unique animal among anime experiences. It's basically like, how would you even describe it? Like a period piece.
Yeah.
But it's almost biographical. Like, if you told me that the main character of Rakugo was a real person who actually lived in, like, 20th century Japan, then
Shouwa era Japan.
Yeah, Shouwa era Japan. Then I would totally believe you without a second thought. It follows him over the course of 2 seasons from like his childhood, where he was like the daughter of a geisha who's made to be the apprentice of a master of this like traditional Japanese performing art called Rakugo, and like his childhood of like coming to accept that just like this is his life now, and he just is going to be a Rakugo performer, even though at first he doesn't even enjoy the art form. Up until like he learns to love it, and then he becomes an expert, he becomes an adult, he deals with emotional romantic problems with like his fellow apprentice who's his best friend, and then like a love triangle between them and a geisha, passed up into like it ends with his old age. He's probably like 80 by the time the show ends, right?
Yeah.
The first season is a flashback.
Yes, the first season is a flashback. And like his struggle with like his love-hate relationship with this art form that has been so important to his life but taken so much from him, and now that it's dying out in the modern era, like what can he do to keep Rakugo alive in the modern world, but also does he even want to, or like as the last like greatest master of this art form, should it die with him? It says so much about found families, about gender politics in the Shouwa era, about what it means to tell a story, what the point is of like making art for other people to enjoy. This show has absolutely everything in it.
The best voice acting performances I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so let's just roll this out real quick. Ishida Akira plays the main character. He has to play this one person at like 6 different points in his life, from being like 8 years old to being like 80 years old. At each different point in those lives, he needs to play him, giving a voice performance where he voices 4 different people.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It's incredible, yeah.
Like,
and
like he's like such a famous voice actor. Also the voice of Kaoru in Evangelion, giving like a phenomenal performance in like a very limited amount of time there as well.
Yeah.
It's just like he just dominates like whatever scene then, and like he is the show so many times for like scenes. It's literally just him talking and the anime. Like there's no other dialogue, and he just nails it. It's just the
Rakugo performances are so good. I have cried. I have laughed watching them perform.
And you're not like a Rakugo fanatic. Like,
no, I'm not.
You could probably not give a shit about Rakugo, but this show makes you care about it.
Yeah.
And even if like me, like, because I was exposed to Rakugo, because like there's a Korean form of it, and my grandfather was a huge fan of it, and so I like, even though I like, especially having like been exposed to it a little, like you could tell, especially like from the start, like holy shit, this guy is so fucking good. Like this is so good. And it was crazy watching the show too airing, because it was like after 3 episodes, and it aired in the winter seasons of each year, both the first season and second season. It was like, okay,
in 2017
guess we know what the anime of the year is. It's like it's done.
I mean, yeah,
there is no competition.
It's probably like the closest anime we'll get to feeling kind of like, you know, the Academy Award pick for Best Picture type of show. Like it really feels like that Academy would choose this as like the best TV show or movie of the year. And it has that really cool feeling.
You can watch the first episode of season 1 and know that this is a modern masterpiece.
Yeah.
The music is so phenomenal. Like the jazz elements, but tinged with like the traditional, because like you could feel the transitional period within the music as well, with the influence of jazz coming after the end of World War II, but also a harkening of the old traditional Japanese instruments. Like it was, oh my god, it's just so good. It's so good. I love it.
Yeah, I feel like you've said it all. I just want to add that if you want to watch like the pure drama, you want to watch Rakugo.
Yeah, it's like the drama of dramas.
Yeah, it's insanely good. Yeah, and it's my favorite anime of 16 and 17 years, both seasons. Yeah, speaking of stuff we don't give shit about. We don't give.
Wait, I get it. That's
we
a
don't
good
give
transition.
shit about
Like this Cav.
That's a good
Rakugo.
segue, but it's
That's
funny.
a great segue.
And we don't give shit about Karuta as well, right?
Oh no, nobody.
Oh,
gives a
but
shit
we
about
do.
Karuta. See,
Oh, but we do, right?
not only are we all Sinrus on this blessed day, but I especially am Sinrus on this blessed day. Because not only do I love Rakugo, but I absolutely love Chihayafuru. Like, the pro CD videos about Chihayafuru and like trying to recommend that one niche sport, like, just speaks for itself. Like, there's no way I can recommend this without it sounding super lame. Like the fact that like Karuta, Karuta is a game with 50 cards and 100 cards based off the poems so there's these things called the 100 right, and like you get into that whole thing, right? All you have to know is there's a memorization sports game and like a card game that like only really Japan plays, and so like if you're the best at it in Japan, you're the best in the world at this game, at this sport called Karuta. And then
Japan is weird, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a girl called named Chihaya, who at the start of the series, when it flashes back to when she's in elementary middle school, her one goal is to be her older sister's biggest fan, because her older sister wants to be a model, she wants to be this big celebrity, and that's her dream. And in comes this transfer kid from the Hicks, from the Boondocks, named Arata, who is the sweetest, kindest, best boy of the show.
No, he's not.
Shush, I'm monologuing.
You can't get away from our slaying if you're monologuing.
And he teaches her about this world of Karuta, and teaches her that you can be the best at the world at this, and that people need to have their own dreams. And like, it's such a great romance, because there's also this childhood friend named Taichi. He exists. He's also super hot, which is kind of annoying because like
he's also best guy.
Arata is best guy, but I love it. See, so they have like husbando wars here. There's a lot of like, so there's like a love triangle there, but there's also like a sports element, because like everyone was trying to work together as a team to achieve like these goals, and they want to win nationals and they want to go to nationals, but they have to like bring in these new members, these rookies in. They have to go up against these teams, and like the best thing about it to me is that like, because it's a manga and it was an anime, like you can have the appropriate poems come out at the right time, and they always like the poem that comes up and that like wins the decisive match, or like is like the turning point, is always something to do with like that character's mental state or how that character's feeling. And it's just like the poetry interspersed with the story and the character development. The music is gorgeous. The animation is like, it's like prime Madhouse. My God, I love it. It's so much fun. It's a josei anime. So actually both Rakugo and Chihayafuru are josei demographic anime, which is interesting because they were community picks, and our community is not primarily josei. But that just goes to show
who knows?
Yeah, how much this is true. We don't know. We probably do. We can probably look at stats, but it just goes to show like these anime are so well regarded that they kind of transcend their like what people think of the genre, or like just genre or demographics. They like are just so worth watching throughout anime, and it's getting a season 3 coming up soon.
Yeah, it's important. Yeah, I feel like the main strengths of Chihayafuru for me is how it showcases passion about sport.
Mm-hmm.
Like how characters are really getting into Karuta, and even though you don't really give a shit about people slapping cards on the floor, you kind of get an immerse into it as well, and you just like want Chihaya to succeed and her team, and it's really interesting. It's like really easy to watch as well. It was like
a super easy binge watch.
I watched season 1 in like a day or so in Zoe to Core.
Yeah.
Like I just sat like on a like Saturday or something, and like okay, I could watch it, and like entire day, and I watched the whole season. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I went to Omijingu actually this past summer, and it was just like an absolutely phenomenal. It was such a fun experience. I loved it so much, and it was just like you could really like capture what makes people so passionate about Chihayafuru and also Karuta, and it was just so much fun. Like I almost wanted to say like the Nani wa Zuni Sakuya Kono
showing your whip colors. I
I
see.
know. It was just so much fun. They didn't have any karate matches going on at the time, but you could just like feel the history behind it. So, Sinrus, did you have anything more to say? I know you loved it.
Oh, I do love it. Chihayafuru is one of exactly 3 series to ever get me to pick up the source material.
Ooh.
And it is my favorite manga by far. Ooh. It's so good. Taichi is the best boy.
The best boy. We even knew. We knew.
Harata is best boy.
Taichi's best guy and just like one of my favorite characters in general.
Taichi, and like my heart goes out to him so often. Like he has the worst luck.
Yeah,
always.
he does.
Despite being like the most attractive human being in the history of the planet.
Yeah.
But
he must suffer to be that hot.
Yeah.
the one cake scene with the spoon. Oh my god.
Oh.
The manga is starting to ramp up now, so I have a lot of like Rakugo feelings going on through my head.
No.
They're in like the biggest matches of the season.
Oh shit.
Nice.
If they adapt as much in season 3 as I think they're likely to, then it'll almost certainly break my top 10 anyway.
Will it?
Nice, that's good.
Do you think it might be a full adaptation? Or
No, probably not. There's too much of it. I think it'll get up to like this year's championship matches.
Ooh, okay. Chihayafuru podcast when?
Oh, please.
Madhouse, please, a full adaptation.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Please. And also like faster, like not like 6 years in between.
Yeah. It's funny because I've been talking to other people who read the manga, and we've all like independently of each other like echoed the same sentiment. Like, season 3 is coming soon, and I already want season 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
But yeah, now that we've talked about all our underwatch shows, we're gonna move on to our next section, and it's our personal most beloved anime of all time. Our favorite, in other words. We're gonna start with Sinrus. What is one of your favorite anime?
Yeah, so before we even got to this section, my top 2 favorite anime of Monogatari and Fooly Cooly were already taken up in other spots. So we're going on to my number 3, which is the Tatami Galaxy. This is one of the shows by Masaki Yuasa, legendary director, like very strong argument for like the best one working in the industry today. It's a very difficult show to describe because it's kind of like a Groundhog Day style narrative. But rather than just a single day looping, it's the main character's like time over the course of college. He's basically like something that I know a lot of people, myself included, found very relatable. It's like a young man coming towards the end of his college career, like looking back at the time he spent there and realizing that he has like completely and utterly like wasted his life and not done anything interesting with his time in college. And he meets someone who claims to be the god of love, who says that he's finalizing like the list for the year of like what men and what women will get together with who. And the girl that he has a crush on has been narrowed down to like either him or one of his other friends. So the god gives him this chance, like, she's gonna be here tonight, like, go there, don't be a wimp, like, actually talk to her for once in your stupid life, and then she'll be yours. So he goes, and then at the last second, he wimps out, and it triggers this loop back to the beginning of his college career because he thinks that, like, if only he had done things differently, then he could have been happy. And every episode almost goes along that same pattern of, like, he starts college anew, he, like, tries a different path, but then he starts doubting himself, he ends up in a place he's unhappy with, and makes the decision to, like, loop back around and try again. And but the show is so bizarre. Like, every different loop feels like almost completely unconnected to each other. It introduces these, like, weird supernatural elements on top of the time loop of, like, one of the things that he, like, joins a cult accidentally. He, like, becomes part of this secret society that's like controlling the entire campus.
As one does in college.
Right.
It actually shows really well how interesting and unique your life could be if you want it to be.
Right.
Yeah.
But it comes together at the end that, like, all of these bizarre and unconnected, like, threads from each different timeline are actually happening, all layered on top of each other, and turns what was just, like, this quirky, funny, like, kind of heartwarming, like, tragic comedy into one big connected drama that explains everything that's happening with every character across every timeline. It's one of the most impressive works of, like, multi-level storytelling I've ever experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And also the ending is just so, like, powerfully heartwarming when, like, the final song played at the end. I literally, like, jumped up from my chair and, like, pumped my fist in the air. I was so happy. I don't think I've ever had, like, a more powerful emotional reaction to anything I've watched.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say it's pretty simple story overall, but it's told in such a creative and unique way.
Yes.
So it's really irresistible. It's about accepting yourself, accepting your life, accepting everyone around you, everything around you, and just accepting that you can't be perfect. But it doesn't mean you have to always look for this perfection. Just be yourself. Just live like you know it. It's very influential, like, for anyone who's watching it, pretty much. It knows what to say and how to say it. It's really, it's like, there are many reasons why it's so beloved by many, and it's really a perfect series, and just watch it. Really, it's amazing. Do you have anything to say? Shocking?
Oh, yeah.
Or Fate?
You guys pretty much covered it all. I was pretty much just gonna say that I think it does a lot for, like, 11 episodes, too. And I think it's a really cool experience if you just want to get a taste of how unique and crazy anime can be, but without being, it's not overly complicated, and there are a lot of times where it doesn't take itself too seriously, and it has a lot of funny moments, too. So I think it's a worthwhile watch, and you get a really fulfilled experience from it.
Oh, yeah, the show is hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. It has really good soundtrack as well. So yeah, it's really good. And we talked about this anime and other Yuasa directed shows in one of our featured episodes before. So if you want to hear more thoughts on it from us,
yeah, check out the Yuasa
Check us out.
Yeah, check us out. Feel free. And the next one is Fate, and your pick is pretty fresh, I would say.
It's certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, actually.
That's good to know.
Yeah. It's Koi no Katachi, a silent voice, which we actually have talked about on the podcast before, in length. So after you watch the movie, you can always go back and see that. This is like the animation, directed by Yamada Naoko. Surprise, surprise. To me, this is like the not surprise number one anime for me, given the fact that the manga itself is like my number one or number two manga of all time, and then directed by my favorite director and produced by my favorite studio. Like, I went into this knowing I would absolutely love it, but I didn't expect this to be so good for me. I know Shaw and I used to joke that, like, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is always going to be like number one, like it's always going to be like FMAB and then everything else. But then Koi no Katachi came and just like shattered my expectations.
A Silent Voice, or How Fate Betrayed FMAB.
That's actually the subtitle for it.
Yeah.
For me, it was just so poignant and beautiful seeing a story crafted around silence and not talking and not conveying things properly, and how we can say things, we can have words, but they don't always convey the things we want to. And showing that in anime and showing that in a visual work, right? Like taking in all the aspects that you can through this visual medium and like really relying on the visual aspect to make up for the audio aspects or the auditory aspects for it. because Shoko, the main character, she is deaf, and so she does not speak well. She doesn't want to speak many times, and she writes in a little book. And Ishida Shoya is a young boy, and they're in the same elementary school class. And Shoko gets bullied by him. She gets bullied by the entire class because life isn't like many Disney movies where you can have a disability and everyone loves you and it's like, oh, this is great. Like, no, kids are like brutal sometimes and they will make your life hell. And they make Shoko's life hell. And it's about Shoya coming to terms with Shoko and his past sins and other people coming together over their past sins. And it really is, more than everything, a story about not only forgiving others, but for giving yourself. And to me, that was just like such a powerful message, such a beautiful message. I mean, the anime itself is like gorgeous, visually speaking, animation speaking, like so many wonderful moments. The OST is just like so fantastic in the way that like it's basically a deconstructed piano, and then Kensuke Ushio just like stuck a microphone in there, so that when you play a normal piano, like you hear certain overtones because of the way the sound travels. But if you just stick the mic there and you deconstruct the piano, you only hear the one note and it ends there. And so like there's all this like time and care put into the music, the production, the directing, the animation, and like it conveys this gorgeous story of not being able to see people in the eye, of not being able to really hear what they're trying to say. It like overwhelmed me completely. I have cried every single time I've seen it, and I've seen it a lot of times. I have like no tears left in my body. Yeah, I just love it a lot and would highly recommend it. It's actually getting another run in North American theaters in January, so look out for that. Yes,
unexpected. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a really amazing experience. I think it's a really cool drama, and what I like about how they handle bullying is I feel like, especially in the beginning section, they really show like a somewhat natural way as to how bullying can happen and how like it really can snowball out of control in a way. So it never really felt like the cliche bullying you see where like someone gets slammed into a locker or, you know, like they get, you know, pushed down the stairs or something, which I always felt were like really over the top, somewhat unrealistic portrayals of bullying, but more so of the isolation, the jokes behind someone's back, the way they feel uncomfortable to go to school and talk to people. And I think they portray that really well, which is the beginning of what makes it feel like such an emotional journey when you get to watch it. Yeah, I can't recommend it enough.
Personally, I think bullying stories tend to be like really cliche, and because of that, not actually very compelling.
Yeah.
But Silent Voice does something that I've never seen any other narrative of this sort do, which is that the main character is the bully.
Yeah.
And just that like mix up changes so much about how everything has to be framed that it's an entirely different experience, unlike any other movie or show I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Shoyo is the real like point of view character, and he's really well written and really interesting because we do start off the movie really hating him, but then growing to really feel for him as he goes through his journey. So
and realizes how terrible he made life for this girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very, I would say, emotionally powerful, because it hits all the right moments of how you feel about characters, how they grow to know each other, how they grow to be close to each other, and it's a tough watch, but it's the one which you do not really, which you probably won't forget soon. I would say it's a good one, definitely one of my favorites as well.
Some good shit.
Yeah, some good shit. Yeah. We're gonna continue without Fate.
Yeah, we can probably just keep going, see if he can rejoin. But yeah. Okay.
Sha, I know you've got some interesting picks right here.
I'm back with, I guess, my favorite. This is actually my favorite of all time. It doesn't fit into either of our other categories because I don't know if it's been around enough to be an all-time classic. but it also isn't like an underwatched gem by any means. And it's Steins Gate, the series we did a bi-weekly series on for like half of the year, but this is the original series, not Steins Gate Zero. And yeah, I think it's a really interesting watch. I think it works really well. Also, it's somewhat of an entry-level anime for people who are kind of only used to anime being, you know, Naruto or Dragon Ball Z, and you can show them another side to anime with still the fun, over-the-top kind of jokes amongst the characters, but it's, you know, it looks very realistic, but has a unique art style to it. They have a really compelling drama that kind of appears kind of underneath your nose, like, while you're watching the series, but it really develops well into a thrilling time travel series. But what I do like about it is how it sets the first half apart to kind of really set a foundation of the Tokyo as a setting, and then, you know, how the characters kind of interact with each other and how they get along as this legitimate friend group called, I guess it's just the lab members. I guess they're just called, Okabe's lab members. And we get a real sense of who Okabe is as he interacts with them on a day-to-day basis, but then we get to see, you know, as the consequences of time travel start appearing more and more, what everyone is like under pressure, and really the lengths that they'll go to for each other to kind of save themselves. And I really love the transition of how it built up from this really like comedic slice of life series into this intense thriller. So I think one of the things that makes the show stand out so much to me is, first off, it has a really great time travel system. You know, it's not like they mention time travel and don't really explore how it happens, because a lot of the series is them kind of discovering how the time travel is working and how their role plays into it, which I really appreciated as someone who had come from other video games and series with just time travel systems, but not necessarily good time travel systems.
Yeah, that's most of the first half of the show, is them trying to noodle out how the time travel works.
Yeah.
Because they're doing things and the past is changing, but they don't really get why until about the midpoint.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was cool to kind of discover it with them, and then I think it helps it not feel too complicated, but also just, you know, just explained enough to figure it out. And one of the things that I love, especially on top of that, is just how the characters interact with each other. I think the dialogue feels very authentic to day-to-day dialogue, where, you know, a lot of times the friend groups in anime kind of feel more polite. I think just because Japan is generally more polite than other countries. But with this friend group, you really get a sense that they're good friends and they make jokes at each other. They give each other nicknames, you know, they're always making cracks one way or another. And that's how you really can feel like you're part of this friend group, is they're just making jokes and you feel acclimated to them really quickly. Or at least I did. So it was one of the shows that when I was experiencing it, I was like, this show really gets my sense of humor, and I feel like it was written in a way that it was written for me. So it felt really personable to me, even though I think it has a defined cast, but it's not necessarily a really a well explored cast, because a lot of times it's just caught up in like the time travel antics. But I think it does a great job of developing Okabe as the main character. I think a lot of the characters around him in his exploits get developed really well. But it really is kind of like almost a hero's journey for him as he goes through the consequences of time travel. And something I appreciated in the second half was, even though they're fighting tooth and nail to try and right the wrongs that they did with time travel, there's this really melancholy sense of they're responsible for their actions in more ways than expected.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, Steins Gate, we've talked about it a whole lot.
A whole lot. We do have podcasts on this.
Yeah, we got a special episode dedicated to it. So yeah, it's good. What else to say? I don't know.
It is good.
Yeah, it's not as simple as it looks at first. I would just want to say that it's probably the anime which nails emotional moments the most, like no other anime for me at least. It's just so powerful in the final stretch that it really elevates it above other anime for me here. Like in this final segment. It gets really, really intense and really interesting. It's very easy to consume, and yeah, it's a must watch. I mean, if you listen to this, you probably have seen Steins Gate anyway, so yeah.
You're one of the
I
5
hope so.
people listening to this who hasn't seen Steins Gate. Then go out and do that already. What are
You know
waiting
what to
for?
do.
Yep. Yeah.
You know who you are.
Yeah. And my pick for a personal favorite, first one, is Mawaru Penguindrum.
Yay!
Yeah. It follows the very same plot structure as Dennou Coil, as Princess 2, even as Steins Gate. Right?
There's a theme in our picks.
Yeah, it's kind of a two-course show as well, where the first half is kind of cute and innocent, but then it gets really wild in the second half. Yeah, it's my third favorite anime overall, and I would say it's very anime. So, like, when we talked about stuff like Monster, stuff like Rakugo, they don't feel like anime
Yeah.
that much. Penguindrum is very anime. It can't be really presented in any other form of media at all, at least in my opinion. There is lots of symbolism, tons of symbolism. It's very creative, and at times it's crazy. It's directed by Akira, who is famous for Revolutionary Girl Lieutenant as well. There are multiple layers of storytelling. There are allusions to modern Japan. There are topics of family, topics of responsibility, topics of loss. It's a very creative story told in an extremely creative way. And at the same time, it has cute penguins, has likable characters who you want to follow, who you want to cheer for. So it's kind of easy to watch as well, which is not really a case for other Ikuhara works. So yeah, it has it all for me, at least. It has a perfect balance between whimsical and thoughtful, funny and sad. It's amazing. I really love this anime.
Yeah, I really love it too. It was one of the, I guess not one of the first anime I watched, but one of the more out there first anime I watched. And I think it does the perfect job of utilizing symbolism, but also telling a straightforward story. So there's not too much that you're gonna miss while watching it, and you need to read up upon it later. So I really appreciated how it both managed to be clear, but also very aesthetic and interesting in the symbolism and in the interesting storytelling it utilized. I think it has a lot of really great themes about family, fate, and kind of taking on the responsibility. Yeah. It has fate. Yeah. So I think it's a really cool story, and I think it's a really unique tale that, as Cav said, you can only really watch in anime.
It is actually interesting, Shaw, that you say that, and also like Fate, I have reappeared as soon as you have mentioned Fate. It is interesting how you guys mentioned that it's easy to watch on a first-time basis, because for me, actually, I felt like I gained a lot more from Penguindrum after I read through what it was trying to get at and the symbolism it was trying to convey about the terrorist attacks in Tokyo in, what was it, 1995, the ones it was alluding to 15 years prior. And so, of course, in the real world, there were no penguins involved. There was an actual cult. There was an actual cult involved. People did die because of it. And it's less, but it is less requiring of parsing through the symbolism than, say, an Utena.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's safe to say that. But yeah, no, I absolutely loved it. It was really great. It was really fun. I love the rock over Japan.
Rock over Japan, yeah.
Yep.
Insert song that they always do. It's so good. Man. Welcome to Rock and Roll Night, indeed.
Yeah. It's a great show. Yeah.
Also, Ringo is best girl because she loves me.
Yeah, one of her lines is, "I love fate," after everyone else was saying, "I hate fate."
Yeah, like I was really mad because Shouwa contracted me the show, so I'm like watching the first episode, and like they keep saying I hate Fate. I'm like, wow, this is a
Are you trying
personal
to tell
attack.
me something?
This is a personal attack. And then like episode 1 ends, and it's like a preview to episode 2, and like there's like she's looking at a pink toilet, and it says I love Fate, and I was like, okay, if that's all I'm gonna get, that's what I'm gonna get.
I want to also say that Penguindrum has my favorite first episode of all time, and it has the favorite ending of all time, like the finale. So yeah.
But the first episode talks about how much it hates Fate. Are you trying to tell me something, Cav? To me, it has the best second episode of all time.
Let's not continue this conversation, okay? But yeah, going back to Sinrus, there is another anime which is kind of tied to Fate, I would say.
Yeah.
Oh,
no! Ooh, good segue. Yeah, my next personal favorite is Kara no Kyoukai. Boundary of Emptiness, Garden of Sinners, whatever English title you want to use.
Sounds chuny as fuck.
Yes, and it is pretty fucking chuny, yeah.
I also read it when he was in high school.
Yes, he did.
So, makes sense.
Makes sense.
Kara no Kyoukai is another show that I find kind of difficult to describe. Well, first off, I guess it's not a show. It's a series of movies. 7 main movies and then like 2 or 3 other like supplemental ones.
Spin-offs, yeah.
Right. It is a dark psychological urban thriller about a girl who has the power to see what are called death lines on anything that she perceives as alive, and by cutting those death lines she can instantly kill anything. And it's a power that comes with a lot of how should I say it? A power
responsibility?
that comes responsibility, but also like once you perceive any other living thing as just like something you can touch and kill, it makes it a lot harder to like relate to people around you and sympathize with humanity and even see yourself as fully human. So the central conflict of the entire series, above and beyond like the antagonist that she faces in each movie, is about the conflict between Shiki's fear that she is like a heartless killer and that's the only reason that she exists, and her desire to be able to live like a healthy, stable life despite all of the horrible things that have happened to her as a result of having this power and as a result of the events that gave her this power. I think that it's such a fascinating character arc, such a unique one, and so well executed that Ryogi Shiki, despite Kara no Kyoukai, like maybe edging in at like my top 5 favorite series, Shiki is far and away my favorite fictional character ever.
Which Shiki, by the way? Shiki or Shiki?
I'm gonna go with the lowercase Shiki.
Okay, lowercase Shiki. Okay. We did have a podcast episode on Kara no Kyoukai where we talk about this, so everyone should listen to it because it's phenomenal. And we have our Type Moon Wizard here.
Yeah, I think that was my favorite podcast that I've recorded.
It was a great one. I came away with it having like, because I liked Kara no Kyoukai, but like I came away with it like maybe I should rewatch it and like it even more, and I actually did end up liking it a lot more on a rewatch.
Awesome.
Thank you for that, Sinrus. Yeah, no, for me, and I explained it on the Kara no Kyoukai podcast, I came into it because I originally wanted to watch it, but accidentally watched Kyoukai no Kanata instead. Very different shows. But yeah.
No comment.
I really like Kara no Kyoukai. I especially like the Kara no Kyoukai event in Fate Grand Order, but I also really like the movies. And like Shiki's a great character. Her and Mikia have such a great dynamic.
Yeah.
The movies are great. And it's not like a lot of people I feel like have this weird expectation where they're like, oh, like I didn't like it after the first movie. I didn't like so it's not good. It's like you wouldn't like
Yeah, you can't think of them as independent movies.
Yeah.
That's the first episode of the 7-episode series. They do not stand alone.
Right. And they should not be watched in what is referred to as chronological order. It's just dumb. Like, it was published and it was broadcasted and premiered in a specific order for a specific reason. And the mystery behind a lot of it is one of the reasons why I love it so much. And also, like, it looks phenomenal. Like, given the fact that, like, movie 5, Paradox Spiral, the hallway fight scene, that it was, like, 2008, 2009?
Yeah. Another of the best fight scenes in anime, if you ask me.
God, so good. Like, if you're a normie and you've seen, like, the Marvel Netflix series and you see, like, hallway fights, like, you should watch the Kyoukai hallway fight, because that is something. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Would recommend.
Yeah. Speaking of some more intense fights in anime. Yeah, wait, you've got a good one.
Yes, I have a very good one. So I have K-On!, which involves the greatest fight over a strawberry on a cake the world has ever seen. So, for some reason, you might be shocked by this, but I have yet again recommended another anime directed by Yamada Naoko.
How did we end up here once again?
I didn't expect to see that either. And the only reason I didn't include Liz in this recommendations list is because I hadn't seen it when we were coming up with them, and we've already done a podcast on that, so you can check those out. But for K-On! And K-On! Podcast 1, K-On! Is the story. Like, you thought Chihayafuru sounded dumb and, like, boring. Like, K-On! Is literally about 4 and later 5 girls who sit around and they drink tea and they eat cake and they goof off and occasionally they play music and then they graduate and everyone cries. It's like, it's one of those shows that just, like, unashamedly captures the essence of being young. Like, it's not afraid to be what it is. It's, like, very plainly, it is a show about people going through life together, being friends, and, like, having fun and, like, having normal, average days. Like, normal people do not have, like, supernatural events happen to them. Normal people, like, sit around and they're, like, really bored on a hot summer day. All their friends aren't working, and so, like, you walk around, you bum around, and you see one of your other friends, and you're like, yeah, let's go to, like, I don't know, the arcade and play some video games there. And, like, you just have fun. And that's like, K-On! That Ritsu Mugi episode is, like, one of my favorites. So it follows, more specifically, these girls named Yui, who is a girl who's really... She's kind of dumb as rocks.
She's so stupid. She is, like, literally... like, actually stupid. And she's my favorite. No hate. She's really stupid.
She's so lazy, so dumb, and, like, but she discovers that there's something she likes doing, and that's playing the guitar. She doesn't play it well, but she discovers it's something she likes doing. You have the 2 childhood friends in Ritsu and Mio, who, like, are, like, an old bickering couple that have just, like, have had it with each other's shit, but, like, are still, like, really close despite it all. And it's great. They have a wonderful dynamic. Like, the first episode has, like, Ritsu doing this, like, very emotional flashback, trying to, like, play to Mio and, like, being like, oh, don't you remember we said we'd start a band together if we were at a concert? And Mio's like, no. Like, we were in your living room and, like, eating ice cream, and you were like, hey, let's start a band. I was like, yeah, okay. And, like, Mugi is, like, this really, like, rich girl and, like, upper class, but, like, not snobby or snooty, and she just, like, loves people, and she, like, loves things. Like, she gets so excited over, like a solar polishing cloth. And it's, like, so dumb. And Azusa, who is, like, a precious light in the world, is a year below them and joins when they're in their second year, and she's just like, I just want to be in a band and do good stuff. Can't you guys, like, practice for once? And it's fun. They have all sorts of hijinks. They go to Europe and England, which Yui does not know that England is in Europe. There's a lot of songs. The songs are great, and it's just so much fun. And it's crazy to see that, like, not just from an anime perspective, right? Because like the story's fun, the characters are great, but from like an influence standpoint, like I mentioned earlier on the podcast, K-On! Has the highest sales per volume beyond Monogatari. It was the first time an all-girl group had the number 1 and number 2 songs on the Oricon list in Japan, which is like their Billboard type 40 or whatever. Had a number 1 and number 2 slots with its opening and ending for season 2. First time an all-girl group had done that. Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's how like crazy popular K-On! Was and is in Japan. Like it still has so much staying power. It had a season which was like 13, 14 episodes, including the OVA, and then it had a second season where Yamada Naoko was like, okay, so I get that like this manga source material was just supposed to be like cute girls doing cute things, like trying to just like, you know, whatever, pander to the masses. I am going to take that and just make this a story about adolescents and girls growing up together as friends. And so like the second season is like 95% original. Someone did the math on it on our anime, which is fantastic.
I think Digibro did it.
And someone else has also listed every male character in K-On!, which is also hilarious.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of fan community stuff surrounding K-On! I wholeheartedly recommend it. It's so much fun. I went into it thinking I would hate it, and now I'm recommending it to you all. So even recommended it to Shouwa, who I thought would also hate it.
And I did not, surprisingly enough. I think it's one of the funniest shows I've seen, and it's gotta be like
pretty funny.
One of the most relatable. Like there's one episode where they're supposed to be like running the mile for gym class, and Yui is like blowing it off to go eat cake with her neighbor. That's like the biggest of those.
First she gets hurt, and then like she scrapes her knee, and then like they're all like really concerned for her, and she's just like having tea and snacks with her grandma neighbor.
It's hysterical. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fun show. Definitely check it out, even if you think that it might not look like something you'd like, or it might not sound like something you'd like. I'd say it's a really fun experience, and it's worth checking out to see if you actually do like or dislike it. It's always worth the shot.
Yeah, and if you're wondering why there are so many cute girls doing cute things shows out there, like these years, it's mostly because of K-On! And because of its ridiculous popularity.
Yeah, people are just like, K-On! Did so well, can we cash in on some of that K-On! Trade? But there will never be another K-On!
Yeah, pretty much. Not even Tamako Market. In any case, speaking of cult following,
hey.
Yeah, Sha, you got a good one.
Speaking of one of the funniest shows I've ever seen, it's Gintama, haha.
Hey!
Remember all those really short recommendations we had? Yeah, not here. Yeah. Here's the other end of the spectrum. Yeah, so I'm here doing the Gintama shill. So Gintama is mostly this episodic comedy series that takes place in, I'd say, the Edo period of Japan. And funny enough, they all live in a town named Edo, so that's the name of their town that they all go around in. And I know that Fate said that Katanagatari is one of the most historically accurate depictions of Japan, but actually Gintama is the most accurate depiction with aliens and like random monsters and just
that's just a fact, yeah.
That's just a fact. So I mean, we can't handle that, like any slander towards that. But yeah, so it's mostly this like episodic comedy series about this lazy samurai dicking around in his town. He's meeting and encountering all sorts of people who have been impacted by the war that had gone on in somewhat of like the previous generation between aliens and the Shogun. And essentially the Shogun and Japan just kind of, you know, gave up and let the aliens take over. But there was this group of rebel soldiers. I forget the exact title of them. I think it's the Joy Rebels. Yeah, the Joy Rebels. Yeah, and Gintoki, the main character, was part of that. So we're kind of learning about the tragedy of war as like this undercurrent of all the daily hijinks of all these characters experiencing ridiculousness. Like, you got the Shinsengumi as a reoccurring characters. You have Katsura, who was an actual terrorist back in the day. Takasugi who was the main antagonist, is like an actual person in war, but, you know, now he's the main antagonist of the series. And it's really an interesting show because they do such a great job of establishing the setting of Edo as this real community and how all of these characters interact with each other in different ways. So it does a great job of having a really large cast and utilizing that cast in different ways. So the majority of it is just, random comedy hijinks, but periodically you'll get a really serious arc that'll focus on somewhat of the tragedies that all of these characters have experienced at some point. And there's this overarching theme of kind of reestablishing your own family and kind of finding family in the world, even if you've been abandoned in the past or like you've lost your family. So it's really all about how characters from all over of many different settings, tragedies, all come together and become a family, which is like ultimately a really wholesome message for a series about dick jokes. So
Yeah.
Don't you mean the Armstrong 900 whatever snow cannon?
yeah, what's it? Armstrong Cyclone Cannon? Yeah, that's like one of the big... They have like a lot of reoccurring jokes like that. And they also do a lot to mock both like samurai stories and also like Shonen Jump tropes. Like they have like so many episodes of just like blatantly dabbing on other tropes. Like there was an episode where they're asking Gintoki what he wants his final move to be, and he's like, I really don't care, I'm good. And then they actually have an episode that explains how filler works, and it will always be like re-shown as like, oh yeah, you want to know why filler exists? Here, check this out. So it's just like, it's one of those things where like, it's kind of like an all-in-one kind of stop. You'll get comedy, romance, tragedy, action. You can really pretty much get
even.
Horror, yeah. Like, you can really get a lot in that. And I think the episode count is really daunting, but I do think it was really worth the journey because everything really builds upon itself. And then some of the later arcs are just like some of the best anime I've seen of all time. There's just some arcs that are just so perfectly crafted. Like, they have amazing cinematography, art direction, sound design. Like, it's really amazing how they came together for this product over so many episodes. And I think while it doesn't have a large, it does have a large female cast. It's my favorite female cast in anime. And I think it probably has...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's got a really strong female cast. Mostly because they act just as dumb as the guys. So they really get a lot of focus and like...
They're all
just
dumb.
As much... Yeah, everyone's dumb. It also probably has the most stacked male voice acting cast I've ever seen. It's got like Sugita Ishida... Dio is Takasugi. Zoro plays Hijikata. Maze Hughes is voice actor. He's someone. Let's see. Norio Wakamoto. Koichi Yamadera, who was also in Rakugo. So it's got pretty much anyone you can imagine. Even like in smaller roles, they have Kamiya. So they got it. They got a lot of stuff going on.
It's so much fun watching, like, or hearing you talk about this and raving about it, because I remember, like, a year and a half or 2 years ago, you being like, all those people who, like, rave and show Gintama, they're full of it. Like, they don't know what they're talking
They
about.
don't know. I always like, and now I've come full circle, and now it's in my recommendations.
But in fact, you were the one who did it.
You embraced our religion, yeah. Alright. Yeah, I agree with you here. I usually like my stories being short and concise and complete, but with Gintama I feel like a big number of episodes works in its favor, because you're getting immersed in this very bizarre world, and you kind of feel like you're a part of this antics of various freaks in Eda. You feel like you're part of this world. You feel at home watching Gintama, pretty much.
You feel like you're part of the community.
Yeah, you're living with these guys in Eda, and like you're watching their lives, how they interact with each other, how they relax, how they fight, how everything goes. Like, and over the course of 365 episodes or so, we've seen it all pretty much. They went to a snow resort. They went to hairdressers. They went to a pool. They
even
saved
have
the
a
world
popularity
couple of
poll
times.
Arc where they have an ongoing like inverse battle for the top spot on the popularity poll after like legitimately polling people in Weekly Shonen Jump.
It's very meta as well, and yeah, I would actually say it's very comfy too, because you're just relaxing watching Gintama. It just feels very, very comfy.
It is a low IQ show for the non-snobs.
I'm a non-snob, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a snob. I'm not. What am I doing here? Yeah, it's worth it. Check it out.
Yeah, it has lots of references and parodies, so yeah, be warned about it, I guess. About both stuff you know and don't know, like some of them are very Japanese exclusive, I would say.
Yeah.
And others are like acceptable or like accessible to everyone. So yeah.
It's got a wide range of humor too.
Speaking of some parodies, my favorite show of all time, I would say, probably know it. Everyone probably knows it. It's called Sayanoara Sensei. Yeah, I don't know what to say about it, really. I feel like I've said it all many times.
I feel like a lot of what was just said about Gintama can be pointed over to this one.
Yeah, that too.
Like satire comedy, but it's also like horror and romance and literally everything else.
Yeah, so Sayanoara Sensei is pretty much the social commentaries anime. It has absolutely everything regarding society in it. Over the course of 43 episodes, over the course of 300 chapters, it's pure social commentary with the most cynical approach you can like witness in anime. It's pretty bizarre. Its cast is full of completely deviant and abnormal students. The teacher who wants to hang himself all the time and succeeds, but doesn't. Yeah, it's bizarre. Yeah, it's weird. It's pushes everything, absolutely everything, to complete extremes, as well as visuals, as well as directing. It's really wild. It's completely episodic, and every episode focuses on some kind of social phenomenon, which is then described, commented on, and in a very unique, bizarre way. It's like if you watch like 4 to 5 episodes of it, you kind of get it what I'm saying. But every season is fairly unique, fairly different from others. It's really out of the way. It's like really unique. Like I cannot even compare Zetsubou to any other anime, I would say. It's also kind of special for me because it's influential. It teaches a lot about despairs of modern life in a pretty whimsical way, and it makes you kind of like, you know, deal with everything in your life, like, and take everything more lightly. Like, you know, shit happens, and all these kind of ridiculous situations, they kind of exist in your life, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, just deal with it. And, yeah. Just kind of be a bit more cynical, I guess, and not take everything too harsh. And, yeah. That's what it told me.
If you like dark, cynical humor, then this is the anime for that. Like, nothing else even comes close to matching its tone.
Yeah, it's really here. It's a very special anime for me. And yeah, obligatory. If you've watched it all and you feel like you want a bit more, there's a manga, and it has a pretty interesting ending, I would say.
Definitely one of the most unpredictable endings.
The conclusion is very curious. I recommend checking it out if you want to start with chapter 219. So yeah, here is that. Now we've covered all our personal favorites, and now we're gonna talk about some of community favorites, right?
Yeah.
And the first one is a very small and obscure anime called Hunter x Hunter.
Haha. Yes. So I'm going back to my life of like just long running shows. I actually wanted to talk about Hunter x Hunter, and then the community picked it up anyway, so win-win for us. As most people know, Hunter x Hunter is one of the more acclaimed battle shonen series, and it had gotten a reboot in 2011, which covered more of the manga content that wasn't covered before. So I love this series. I can't stop talking about it in and out of podcasts. We do have an episode on it, and it's actually our most viewed podcast to date, which is pretty awesome. So if you want to check it out, please do so. But yeah, Hunter x Hunter is an action-adventure series of following the journey of Gon, who's this young boy who wants to become a hunter because his father was a hunter, and by his own words, he wants to see what's so great about being a hunter that his dad would leave his own kid to do so. Like, my dad abandoned me, this shit must be cool, I want to discover it. And what we got...
Really fucked up when you put it that way.
Oh yeah, that's like... It's interesting in interviews with Togashi that he wanted it to be clear that, like, Gon's father is fucked up, and Gon is also fucked up for just abandoning his home to go on this ridiculous journey.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that kind of starts the theme of it really well. Is I think it really does feel like a journey, and that's something I look for in a lot of anime, especially adventure series, is like, I feel like I go on a journey with the characters and experience many different things. And that's something you get with Hunter x Hunter as Gon explores the somewhat vast-seeming world that he lives in as he goes from place to place. And it's almost like a character-driven adventure series, because I think there's a lot of times where it seems like there's this plot structure, but then, like, something unsuspecting will happen, and it'll either continue on longer than expected, or just cut off really shortly because Gon is just kind of done with the place. He's like, yeah, I'm done, I'm not interested, time to continue on the journey. And you get a really colorful cast of characters, as I think a lot of people know Hisoka from Hunter x Hunter because he's the swing guy. So, like, everyone sees the gif of, like, this horny clown, like, getting turned on by a kid, which does happen in the show. Like, that's not misleading.
Not out of context at all.
That's not out of context.
That's how it is.
But and that's part of what I really love about this series over others is the characters and how well they do at presenting both the, let's say, the good guys and the bad guys as both morally gray, and how a lot of times you can have great intentions but have some really terrible actions go along with it. And sometimes you can have really bad intentions and still not really come off as too evil, all things considered. So that dynamic between protagonists and antagonists is always something really interesting for me. And I think it helps create not necessarily like a super unique appearing series, but it had a unique experience to me in that I really felt for a lot of the characters as the journey went on, and it felt like a full experience, even though the anime has ended, but there's still manga content afterwards. So, you know, you can pretty much watch the anime, get a really fulfilling ending, and if you want to, like, that's it. You have the experience, or you could keep reading on and find some cool stuff afterwards. But it's an overall really solid product.
And is all readers that the manga is always on hiatus, yeah?
Yeah, almost as much as Nana, but not really. It does come back like once or twice a year with 10 chapters, so I appreciate that at least.
Yeah. I would also add that Hunter x Hunter is extremely easy to watch and binge. I watched it all in a matter of like 14 days or so.
Nice.
Like the entire anime. It's really easy. It's fun and yeah, it's not as simple as it appears at first, especially in the like second half. And
the second half definitely pulls out like big tonal shifts.
Yeah.
That you would not expect from the way that the story starts out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has pretty strong writing as well for what seems to be a pretty generic shonen series. So it's going to surprise you sometimes, yeah.
And I think people expect to be surprised, but I think it surprises them in ways that they don't expect, which kind of sounds like 3D thinking on this, but I think it's like people hear like, ooh, it's not your average shonen, and they think of one possible route, but instead it does something different. So then they're like, oh, that's what they meant? But I think it's interesting nonetheless to see the different ways that you can go in battle shonen series. Because I think it's cool to compare that to Togashi's previous work, Yu Yu Hakusho, which is a lot more of the by-the-book shonen, but it's, you know, well-executed, but traditional shonen tropes. And this one still has a lot of those traditional shonen tropes, but they happen in a somewhat unique way. But no, it's not a deconstruction. We're not doing that. We're not doing that.
We're
game.
not doing it.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of a traditional shonen but really well executed, our last community pick.
Yep, it is Haikyuu.
Yep.
Yay! So it's cool because we got another. We have another sports series added to the list. Yeah. So, Fate actually contracted me Haikyuu a while ago, and I watched like both seasons in like 2 days. So it's like 50 episodes just straight binged of Haikyuu. And I think it always has the classic, you try to sell Haikyuu to someone and they're like, but I don't care about volleyball. And you're like, well, I don't care about volleyball, but I care about the characters.
I don't care about you.
Yeah, well, yeah, you could go that way. See how well that works as a sell. But you get the, like, I don't care about the subject matter, but I care about the characters, and they care about the subject matter, so then I care about the subject matter. And I think it doesn't
Chihayafuru.
Yeah, it's like a Chihayafuru situation. And I think that it doesn't really do anything different per se, but it's very well executed, as Sinrus had said. They do a really great job of establishing like why the characters are so passionate about volleyball, the team dynamics, the antagonist dynamics, and then just the overall classic sports hard work versus talent theme is executed really well. And you will actually learn something about volleyball from this, because I watched Haikyuu and then I went and watched like the Summer Olympics back when it came out, and I was like instructing my family on how volleyball works. I'm like, yeah, that's a libero, that's like yeah, that's what they're doing. They're like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, guys, I'm educated from my Chinese cartoons.
Yeah. Educational anime, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that the main strength of Haikyuu is its focus on the characters, because the cast is pretty big. Mm-hmm. And it's not only the Karasuno school which are in the focus. There are different schools and they all have different characters, which are kind of rivals, kind of friends with each other. And I would say that almost every member, every character serves some purpose in the narrative and exists for some reason, which is really cool. And even though it's like the cast is really big, it doesn't feel too oppressive and doesn't feel hard to follow. So yeah, it's really interesting to just see how characters develop, how their passion towards volleyball is being conveyed through their games. Yeah, it's also really well produced, so props to IG production for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a really easy watch and just a very pleasant sports anime to just get through.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, like, it's kind of the quintessential sports anime. Like, if you've seen a good sport anime, like, and then you watch Haikyuu, you're probably not going to see anything that you haven't seen before, but there are very few other ones out there that can match, like, the level of hype, the level of, like, investment in the characters that this one gets you to pull with.
Yeah, I think it's also a great, like, gateway sports anime, because you can show someone Haikyuu and then they'll be like, oh wait, Haikyuu was really good. Maybe there's something to these sports anime out there. So I've seen it be a case of, people aren't interested in sports anime, then you're like, yo, just watch Haikyuu. Then they watch it, love it, and then they check out other series too. So
like Chihayafuru.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because once you can get behind liking volleyball, you can get behind liking a poetry card game.
Yeah. They're basically the same thing, really.
Yeah.
Like, you slap a card, you slap a ball.
Same thing.
You slap a face of someone else and that's how you watch. Hajime no Ippo. Yeah. But yeah, it's been all of our picks, right?
Yeah.
I think that's it.
We got him.
Yeah, we got him. Woo! Alright, that was a pretty long one, but we've covered it all.
Yeah, Fate didn't make it.
Fate died. We sacrificed Fate for our picks.
Yeah, Fate decided that we don't really deserve him, and he went to his journey to rewatch some Yamada anime again.
So fucking long. Did you notice he finished his last pick and then disconnected? A little suspicious, if you ask me.
Very suspicious. Well, I guess he's liking his yet another key on rewatch, I guess. So yeah, let's give him that. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us today, Shouwa and Sinrus.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
Thanks for hosting.
Yeah, and it's been a pretty fun discussion.
Yeah,
and
watch our recommendations.
Thank you to everyone for listening, and if you guys have any other recommendations that you think we missed, leave them in the comments.
Yes,
let us know.
Yeah, and I hope this little bit long podcast has been helpful, and you check out at least some anime of the list.
At least my picks.
Yeah. Nobody watching this has seen all of our recommendations. So
in fact,
if
we
you
had
watch
not.
this, yeah, we have not even. So if you watch this and then don't pick up any of the stuff we recommended, then why did you even just waste the last 2.5 hours of your life?
Yeah, if you don't believe us, prove it by watching them and telling us they're not worth recommending. But we got you to watch them, so it still counts.
Yep. Or you could say, how many anime of this have you already completed?
Yeah.
And flex on
if
us.
anybody has already seen all of these, then absolutely at me and call me an idiot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Same.
You are way cooler than I am.
All right. Thank you very much for listening, and see you next time.
Bye. Yay, we did it. Thank you.